What is happening, people? Welcome back to another Scarfey Spurs Talk podcast. A lot to discuss in this episode. We're going to be reviewing that Wycombe result, reviewing the Luton game too, and also talking all things transfers because a lot has happening, since the last podcast. Gibbs White saga, etc., etc. We've even got the confirmed squad to go to South Korea, so a crazy time to be a Spurs fan, and also have a Wycombe fan joining us for the Wycombe review and a Luton fan joining us for the Luton review. So please do bear with us. We're trying a few new things tonight, but let's introduce my panel that's going to be here all through of tonight. Firstly, Joseph, how are you doing? Welcome back, and talk to people a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I've become a bit of a regular on the channel, haven't I, Harry? It's been great getting involved over the last season, really, or half a season. Done a lot of things for the channel, but really always looking forward to talk Tottenham. It's been great to get involved, and it's a turbulent time at Tottenham right now. A lot of interesting things going on. So I'm sure we're going to have a very interesting conversation today about the two pre-season games, looking ahead at what's pre-season, what's to come in pre-season, as well as some of the transfer news. A lot going on, which has been, quite something. Let's just say that. I'm sure we'll get into it all. But again, thank you for having me back, and really looking forward to talking to the guys.
No worries. Thanks for giving us your time this evening. That's definitely one way of putting it. Bob, welcome back to the podcast. Firstly, most importantly, how you've been doing, and secondly, talk to people a bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, so I know it's on there. Well, back with yourself, Harry. It's been some time since. I think we tried to get it going once, twice, and just was working like got in the way. So it's good to be back. Yeah, I'm just a Spurs fan like the rest of us, really, aren't I? Keyboard warrior on Twitter, giving opinions when I need to or when I don't need to. So yeah, it's been a fun being a Spurs fan tonight. Plenty going on to chat about tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back tonight. Kyle, welcome back. How are you doing? And please as well, do introduce yourself.
Yeah, I've been doing good, thank you. Once again, thank you for having me on. What have I been doing? I'm a Masters in Media and Communication student. Just graduated from university. So yeah, looking forward to another really good podcast. Should be quite a long one because there's a lot to speak about. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. No, you're absolutely right about that. It is a long one. So you're on a long journey or whatever, you've got some time to spare. This is the one for you. So I'm warning you now, this is going to be longer than usual. So if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Thank you very much. You know who I am. I don't think I need to introduce myself at this point. Before we get into Tottenham stuff, I want to talk about Lionesses because they have once again made history winning Euro 2025. I mean, Joseph, back-to-back European champions. They've made the country proud again, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. Watching that game yesterday, it was actually a really entertaining game of football. Two really evenly matched teams. I think the first half, Spain looked completely dominant, and I thought they'd run away with it. But the second half, the Lionesses came back and battled through. It seems like there's something they've been doing throughout the whole tournament. In terms of always coming from behind. It felt like with Sweden and Italy, and going to a penalty shootout. It's always going to be 50-50 almost, and luckily, couple of them went in, and you just knew when Chloe Kelly was stepping up for that penalty, it was going to go in. She's almost one of the clutchest sportswomen's out there at the moment, even overall in sport. So no, it was great to see England win again, and long may it continue. It feels like they've got a good young emerging talent as well, so there's no reason why England can't become dominant throughout the world in women's football. So yeah, great to see yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. Sticking with you, Joseph, do you think they've shown some really good team spirit and determination throughout the tournament? 3 consecutive games going to extra time and 2 consecutive games going to penalty shootouts. I mean, that takes a lot out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it shows a lot of resilience, togetherness from the squad. I mean, again, they made a number of changes throughout those games as well. They were, they felt like a squad. It wasn't like a first 11 and you were kind of unsure. I mean, they took off Russo in that final. After she scored, they take her off before the end of 90 minutes, and it just shows how much they believe in everyone together. So it was, it was fantastic to see England come away with that. Again, I think commiserations to Spain because I thought they were excellent. Some of the football they were playing was really, really impressive. And, might be outing myself here, but I have usually criticised some women's football. I've always said obviously, you understand it is going to be slightly different from the men's game, but I've always thought technically it should be as good. And sometimes I haven't seen that. Sometimes I haven't seen as good technical ability. But that game yesterday was really impressive. The football I was seeing from Spain and from England was really, really good. It's top football. And in the end, again, it came to a coin toss on a penalty shootout, and England held their nerve. So it was great to see.
Absolutely, thank you. Kyle, Sarina Wiegman, talk to me about her. I mean, she deserves a lot of credit, doesn't she? I mean, she's just a serial winner at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, she's won 3 Euros in a row now, one with the Netherlands and then 2 with England. Like you said, she's a serial winner. It's got the misogynists and the sexists crying online, which is always nice to see.
I don't think you're ever going to stop Joey Barton.
Oh God! I mean, yeah, she's now won three times the amount of trophies as he does appearances for England. So I don't think you can really say too much on the matter. But like you said, that kind of never die attitude. They had to play a lot of football, going to extra time. They would have been tired. It's a testament to how well and how deep they had to dig to actually get it over the line. And like Joseph said, Spain were quite unlucky. Maybe they did play really well and they had the majority of the ball. I thought maybe towards the end we looked like we were hanging on for penalties, but sometimes you've got to do the dirty work in order to get over the line. It's not always pretty, and eventually got there.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I believe they're at Downing Street tonight at the time of recording. To kind of appreciate them like an honour. I believe that's right. Slightly different question for you, Kyle. With the Lionesses winning the Euros, how do you think that kind of success has impacted women's football in England? Because obviously the Lionesses have won the Euros before that, obviously back-to-back years as we spoke about. And what role should also a club like Tottenham play in kind of continuing that momentum and growth of the women's game?
Well, I mean, I don't know specifically about Tottenham, but I suppose that they like to do a lot of work with local communities around the area. So, I mean, building off of this success with the England's team, there's always they could maybe do open days with younger women's Sunday league sides or something like that. It's all about inspiring the next generation. There's been a real kind of driving focus of these tournaments inspiring the next generation. I read somewhere that UEFA did take around a £20 million loss on the women's Euros, but I mean, considering £20 million for UEFA isn't really that much money in the grand scheme of things, but it's maybe a necessary investment in order to kind of promote the overall image. Sometimes you've got to take losses to build towards the bigger picture. But yeah, I would just say kind of, getting local communities, getting local girls involved, open days at the clubs, kind of, just inspiring the next generation.
100%. I'd like to say myself, I thought with the Lionesses, there's several times they look like they've down and out, but great team spirit, determination, never give in. And I always think the best teams, whether it be men's football, women's football, always find a way. Of course, you need a little bit of luck along the way, and this Lionesses side just always find a way. And Spain were better, I totally agree, definitely the better team, but again, the Lionesses do find a way. But Bob, can I ask you a little bit about Spurs women? Do you think they're growing at the pace that maybe you'd expect from a club of our size and resources, especially after a moment like this? Do you think needs to be more investment maybe in the women's team?
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more. I think over the last couple of years, we've seen us grow and become a little bit more high profile. I'm not sure if that's just due to obviously the English women's team doing well and being Irish. The Irish women's team were in the World Cup there a couple of years ago, so if that spiked interest as well. So I think in general, there's just been a growth in the women's game. I don't think we've probably done enough as a club. Obviously, Beth England came in there a couple of years ago at this stage, grew the profile a bit. Is it Wilhelm? I know he's gone this summer. But again, we seemed to grow a little bit under him, and then we had obviously the FA Cup run the season before last, am I right in saying? And that was probably the first women's game I sat down to watch as a Spurs fan. So look, I could probably be doing more as a fan to be getting involved and interested in it. But I think it's certainly improved, but I don't think it's probably where it should be. Like you look at teams with bigger budgets, like Chelsea, that lot down the road, United, like they will have kind of bigger names within their squad, so they're obviously invested in it. Even like the little bit I did watch of the women's Euros there, like I clicked it on the other night when in the Italy game. I can't say I watched the final, and it was disappointing not to see any Spurs representative, and every player you kind of look up to see who they played for. It was either Chelsea, City, or that other team. So it's disappointing that probably, and that I suppose the England team probably reflects it, that we probably haven't done enough as a club yet.
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say. Thank you, Bob. It's a good points raised. Now let's move on to first review of the day, and that is Wycombe. People who don't know, we played Wycombe Wanderers at Luton Town in 2 pre-season friendlies on Saturday. The Wycombe Wanderers game ended 2-2 and the Luton game ended 0-0, so 2 draws against 2 League One sides. Firstly, let's introduce the special guest, or an opposition fan and Wycombe Wanderers fan, George from the Wycombe Way. Firstly, George, how are you doing? And secondly, please talk to people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Evening, gentlemen. Evening, everyone. My name's George. I run the Wycombe Way across social media. I've been doing it now coming up for 9 years or so. So very much used to it now. And sort of it's nice that Wycombe's rise has grown with my channel. I'm really looking forward to a successful season, hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers crossed for you. What does the Wycombe Way do? Is it about news? Talk to me a little bit about
that. It started off a bit of news, and then I realised that people can do news better than me. So then it became a little bit more of a laugh, a little bit more banter, and taking the mickey a little bit more. I still do articles and previews, podcasting, but mainly it's not so much a source of news. It's mostly entertainment and a little bit of humour and fun.
Lovely. Thank you for joining us this evening. Looking forward to getting into it. A pleasure to have you on. Thanks for giving us your time. Let's get straight into it and start with the Spurs lineup for this game. For people who didn't see it, it was Brandon Austin, Porro, Romero, Vuskovic, Davis, Abbott, Bergerville, Sarr, and Odobert, Richarlison, and Son. Joseph, when that team was announced an hour before, what were your thoughts? Was it stronger than you maybe expected?
I wouldn't say so. No, I think once I saw that obviously we had the 2 pre-season games in one day, it always made me think that, look, we're going to play some of the young players, we're going to play some of the starters. Everyone's basically going to get a game. You've got 2 11s, you've got amount of subs you can make each game, you can make however many you want. So you knew there was always going to be playtime for everyone who was fit. And yeah, I was happy to see, the lineup. It was, again, I didn't really have too much on it. Personally, I don't know loads about Wycombe. The only kind of history I have with Wycombe is being a partial Southend United fan. We played Wycombe in the playoff final in 2015, I think it was, and Southend won penalty. In extra time on penalties, I think actually. I was at that game, which was great. But I didn't know too much about Wycombe or what they were going to bring to the table. I was mainly focused on Tottenham and about what we could do. Again, I didn't watch the games live. But it was good to see, again, just get an idea of what the team's looking like, what Frank's going to set the team up like. And it's a lot to take from the game. So I'm sure we'll get into all of that in a minute.
Certainly will. Thank you, Joseph. Kyle, any surprises in there for you? And again, same question to you. Was it stronger than expected? It was a little bit stronger than I expected. I didn't think quite an A and B team that we'd see, but there are a few names in there that maybe I didn't expect to see.
I'd say it was kind of relatively well balanced between the 2 teams, like the 2 games, sorry. Having 2 games on the same day, we kind of knew that like pretty much everyone would be getting some sort of involvement. But yeah, again, not really many surprises. I was kind of interested to see Son maybe play in as much, considering that there's a bit of a like kind of uncertainty as to whether he'll be leaving or not. Maybe it's a case of where if he has a decent pre-season, we can knock on a couple of million more onto his price. But by the way he played, I don't really think that's going to happen really. But yeah, like you guys, I wasn't able to watch the full game. I saw a few highlights, a few clips, read a few articles preparing for this. And it's definitely pointed out a few kind of areas of weakness of something that we could definitely improve on going forward.
Okay, thank you very much for that one. George, how did you feel seeing that Spurs side? Anyone you maybe feared in that team or look forward to seeing live?
Yeah, it's obviously a strong team. I think it speaks volumes about the depth and the level of these Premier League teams that you can put out two teams on the same day with such quality. I'm sceptical about pre-season always. It's only about minutes and fitness. I wouldn't care any more or any less if we'd lost 5-0 or won 5-0. Obviously, a 2-2 draw is a good result on paper, but ultimately it's down to fitness and minutes. Our season starts this Saturday coming, so that the final test for us really to get last-minute bits into place. But yeah, to play against a team as strong as that Tottenham side, a really good test for us, and I think it shows with the 2-2 result the direction we're heading in.
Which is surely a good one. What were your thoughts on your own lineup, and how do you think that will compare to the starting 11 that you'll see against Bradford in game week 1, which for you isn't long at all, is it?
Yeah. Pre-season, we've had a mixed bag, sort of team selection wise. I think the team we put out against you guys on Saturday was pretty close to what we're going to see this weekend. There's still 3 or 4 names that aren't guaranteed to get in that side. I think there's a sort of 6 or 7 at 100% guaranteed to start. So I mean that's exciting in itself. Our gaffer said that he's done his job properly. If you still can't predict an 11, so there's excitement to come from that. Who we're going to play is something to look forward to. But the shape and everything like that is sort of that's set in stone now. That's not going to change. And so it's just who's going to play where really.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the game itself, the action in the 90 minutes. First goal of the game went to Tottenham. It was Sarr with the follow-up in the 14th minute. Bob, I'll come to you first on this one. For you, is it Sarr, right place, right time, or does he deserve credit for getting there first and maybe acting instinctively?
I think he's probably the latter, based on kind of what he's done first in the past, with kind of getting into the box at the right time. He does have that kind of that surgeon run into the box. Like, he is full of energy, he is box to box. So I give him the benefit to say that it wasn't right place, right time, that he just has it in him. I thought Odegaard looked good at the end when he picked up the ball. He looks dynamic. I like Odegaard. I don't think we saw enough of him last season. So he looked kind of dangerous, kind of getting into that pocket of space. And then Sarr obviously follows in and I suppose not does the easy job because he's there, but takes it well.
Thank you, Kyle. I mean, Bob mentions it there, Odegaard. I mean, he does really well in this, doesn't he? With initial turn and shot that the goalkeeper parried out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually kind of nice to see a winger who's not too afraid to take their man on. I think we've kind of been starved of that in the last year or two or so, with maybe Son on the decline a bit and Brennan maybe not suited to that kind of style of being out wide and having to take on their man. So it's actually nice to see a bit of flair, a bit of kind of individual skill. But again, with Sarr, I think it's kind of what Bob said, where he's it's right place, right time. He's made that run into the box. I mean, he's a midfield engine, really. We've all known that, even though I think the last 2 years he's probably been one of the more divided upon opinions within the fan base about Sarr, whether he's got a big involvement in the future or wherever he's kind of an area we need to improve on. But I think he's shown in that friendly that he can still offer something, because he did have a good game from the looks of things.
You did look that way. Absolutely with you on that. And I also a new question, not necessarily his future, but what does he really offer to the Spurs side? I think we're seeing from pre-season, as you said there, that he's still got a lot to give and should be good for a Frank system. George, can I ask you, anything you could have done better to prevent the goal? I hate to be picky, but pre-season is all about trial and error and how to improve and how to learn and develop things. So anything you look at and go, we should have done that better on reflection?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Sort of pick up your men in the box, especially against a quality side. If you let people wander away from you, you're going to be punished. I'm sure that's something they would have picked up post-game and will look to put right this weekend. you're playing against quality teams. The footwork is great. The speed on the touch and when the ball bounces is really impressive. And so I don't think they'll be kicking themselves too much, obviously, but certainly little bits to pick up on and put right for our league season.
100%. And am I right in thinking your league season starts this weekend then? It's quite early, isn't
away
it?
at Bradford.
All the best in that one. I mean, it's a lot quicker than Premier League. Suppose we have football to watch if it's televised. That's good. That's what we like. To be fair, as annoying it is, there's no Premier League football. We've had quite a lot. We've had the Women's Euros now, and EFL's coming back. So we haven't had nothing, let's say. So yeah, quite lucky in a way. But on to the next goal of the game, which did come to Wycombe guests in the 32nd minute. I mean, Joseph, Austin's going to be really disappointed with himself, and you can understand why, can't you?
Yeah, real blunder. Again, goalkeepers make these mistakes, so I'm not going to put too much on him. But again, they can't be regular, and he's got to, he had to clear that out of his mind, and I think he did for the remainder of the game. There wasn't too many other shaky moments for him. Again, it obviously, when you see these little mistakes from goalkeepers, it always puts into question the wider idea is, are they good enough? Are they ready for the challenge ahead of them? And the thing is, with obviously Fraser Forster and Alfie Whiteman both leaving, we've got 3 goalkeepers. And, with one injury or anything like that, he comes into the chance of him actually being in goal for Tottenham on a regular basis. So as much as, again, I don't want to put too much stress on him. And we saw last year when he came in moments, he looked okay. And we saw that he, maybe he was a possible option. I think it is clear he is the number 3 out of our goalkeepers. And I think people, obviously there's been a little bit of transfer news saying that Kinski could leave on loan to Lille. And I think a lot of Tottenham fans, especially after seeing that mistake from Brandon Austin, were kind of, slam the door on Lille's face and make sure Kinski stays, because we cannot afford, I don't think, to have Brandon Austin as that second choice goalkeeper.
A lot of people will be thinking that. We will get on to transfers a little bit later on in the podcast after we've reviewed both games. But Kinski is definitely one of my talking points, because there's a possibility he could leave the club this summer only to go on loan. But even still, I don't think any of us really want that unless we have a viable replacement. But George, that's a really good solo run. Obviously, a cheap goal for my side, Tottenham, to concede. But you're absolutely take it, weren't you, as well?
Yeah. Keeper's done him a massive favour, obviously. But it's been a few years since we've had a winger who can run at a defender. They're a rarity in the modern game. I think we can thank Pep for that. But certainly in the Championship and below, it's really rare to find a winger who wants to take a man on and drive forward with the ball. He's taken the risk. He's taken a couple of men on, had a proper goal. Obviously, the keeper won't want to watch it back, but it's that old saying: if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle. It's ended up in the back of the net, which is all that matters.
Absolutely. You don't know if you don't try. It's one of them. Absolutely. And George, we'll stay with you if you don't mind as we move into the second half, because the next goal will come for your side to take the lead 2-1 in the 50th minute. I mean, firstly, it's a great team move, wasn't it?
It's something that we've clearly worked on in pre-season. I can't think off the top of my head how many goals we've scored. It's 5 or 6 in a sort of 3 or 4 games. But the majority have been focused down that left-hand side. Taylor Allen has come in from Walsall, primarily a centre-half, but likes to move forward with the ball and without it. There's a really good ball down the left-hand side to pick him out. A good ball across the box eventually, and a smashing finish that no keeper's going to save. If you can score that sort of goal against Tottenham and against Premier League defences, then I think we're going to be in for a lot of fun in League One.
Absolutely. Are you excited about your new winger? Obviously got a brace in this game. Clearly, not shy of confidence.
Talented young lad. Like I said, it's been a few years since we've had someone like him. Heavily rumoured with a lot of clubs this summer. Of course, Crawley relegated from League One, so always a high likelihood that he would be on the move. Not really someone that I thought we'd be in for. Not our sort of player. I think we're quite reserved in that aspect. We like to move the ball around, but don't really like to sort of do too much individually. So I'm quite surprised that we ended up with him. But absolutely, based on this pre-season so far, I'm not complaining because he looks a really tidy player.
No, exactly that. I mean, Bob, from our point of view, although it was a really good strike, good team move, it just felt too easy, didn't it? Like walking through that midfield like knife through butter.
Yeah, it did. Obviously came down to left, cut back, good finish. I was actually having another look at it there as George is chatting. It probably screams out how we need a 6 if you look where the Coda scored. There's probably a pocket of space that could be picked up. I know Bentancur was obviously due to start and then Abba came in for him. So maybe he would have been a little bit more disciplined and I suppose just have that match, not sharpness, but match, no, I can't think of the word, knowledge, probably for lack of a better phrase, when it comes to actually know where to sit and when to go forward and so on. I don't think Bergvall is the option as a kind of I think Bergvall, if you have a 3, you can put him in there, not in the pivot, but I wouldn't be putting him in there probably in the pivot. And then Abbott on the other side is obviously pretty inexperienced as well. So maybe that's kind of just an area to look at. And we'll probably come back to that later on when we're talking about transfers. But look, fair to the lad, he takes the go really well. Sweet spot of the ball, hits the sweet spot of his foot and it goes in. He takes the go well. Some goals, the strike kind of does it for them. But yeah, my propensity would be to think that we probably need a 6 and that kind of, but we all know we do, and that probably shows why.
Good point. Really good point. We'll get back to that point in particular. Thank you, Bob. Kyle, I'll come to you. Next goal in the final of the game, the 4th of the game, and the second to Tottenham to make it 2-2 to level proceedings. It was Sarr again getting a brace, 2 braces in this game. I think that was pretty unlikely, even among the bookies probably before the game. 66th minute, the goal came. Romero with a really good interception firstly, winning it back. I mean, that's what we want to see from him, isn't it? Like stepping into midfield and intercepting.
Yeah, it's what he does best, really, where he steps out of the defensive line and wins the ball back, cutting out like the passing lanes. So yeah, it's kind of what we're used to as a fan base, I suppose, of Romero doing. And same again, Sarr, right place, right time. It was a really nice finish as well. Actually, it was not really a finish that you kind of expect from a player profile as Sarr. But yeah, he's had a really good game, and I'll be interested to see kind of what Frank has him for him to offer next season, because he was kind of always interchanging out positions, I think, the last season or 2 or so, like playing as a different kind of profile in the midfield. Some people say that he's better further back. Postecoglou sometimes played him as a kind of advanced 8, but maybe higher up the pitch. But we'll see. Frank's good at getting the best out of his players, and I'm sure that he has a plan for Sarr.
Yeah, I think he has. I mean, he has the energy of a Frank system. So we'll have to see exactly where he fits in. Definitely one to watch. So thank you for raising that. Joseph, talking to Sarr, I mean, good body strength and drive in this move. Was he finishing it off as well? I mean, that was a great performance from him too, all round, wasn't it, in the 90 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, Sarr has always been a player I've really liked. He works tirelessly. He's got, again, he is kind of that engine player, but he does have a lot of quality. I've seen him score a couple of goals for Spurs. And he looks like he could be a really important player for us next year. I think the player I want to highlight is Thompson. Is it Tynan Thompson, the winger that came on off the bench for Spurs? I think he looked really good. The first real thing we've seen from him, especially in a first team capacity. And, I mean, Son was quite lackluster. I think he has been for a while now. Obviously, we'll get onto the wider conversation of Son, I'm sure, later. But, I thought he came on, Thompson, with a lot of energy, a lot of hunger, and he really wanted to make an impact on that game. When he got the ball, he wanted to run with it. I remember, I think after that goal, towards the end, he got the ball from Davis and made a run, had a shot. The ball went wide, but the players applauded him because we saw a player who was hungry to try and create. And in that moment where Sarr plays the ball to him, he's got one idea on his mind. It's to find Sarr again, and he threads the ball through. And yeah, again, Sarr with a creative finish, and that was impressive. But it was just good to see a younger player come into the game and really want to make that impact, especially when some of the senior players weren't at their best. So that's who I'd like to highlight from that goal. I thought he was really impressive when he came on in general, but again in the goal, I thought he executed it perfectly.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you brought him up because that was my next talking point, and then which leads me on to I could bring you back in on this one, Kyle. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for the assist in this goal, but also did he impress you at the end of the game?
Yeah, he looked bright from what I saw. Again, I'm sorry, I'm quite limited on what I actually saw of the game, but
That's all right.
you know, that left side of our team is kind of a bit up in the air, really, is who can grab the spots. You know, Tell was still quite young, quite kind of untested. We know that he has a lot of quality, but you know, is he good enough to make an impact straight away? Obviously, Son has kind of declined quite a fair bit in the last 2 years. So that left spot, you would think we would make a signing in the left spot, but knowing Tottenham, knowing how we are in the market, that's not always a guarantee if that will replace Son. But I think he'll know that the situation at the club of that, you know, this is his chance to kind of make a big impression. And I think that was for both games as well. We, in the Luton game, I know we'll be speaking about it later, but some of the younger players that came on near the end of the game, I think that they knew, like, you know, new manager, completely clean slate, got something to prove, which I think maybe some of the senior players should have actually have really done the same, kind of thought the same thinking process of, you know, our spot isn't fully guaranteed. We do kind of need to take this a bit seriously, even though it's pre-season.
Absolutely. People often underestimate, don't they, the importance of pre-season, you know, the fitness aspect of it, tactics, and you learn a lot from pre-season that you wouldn't, like, kind of without it. So as annoying as it is, as much as you want the Premier League season to start, pre-season is useful. George, I'll come to you. Who impressed you in this game from a Wycombe point of view?
Obviously the young lad with the 2 goals, Junior. Like I said, really excited to see him in action this season. But aside from him, our defence looks much more assured than it has done in recent years, and a little bit more of a creative outlet. Wycombe historically have always been a long ball team under Ainsworth and even Bloomfield. We brought in Mike Dodds, who's has a lot of admirers, especially from his work in youth football. Jude Bellingham was down at our friendly at Barnet last week to catch up with him, and just shows the, I guess, the level of respect that he's earned over the years. So we're trying to play a little bit more possession-based football, get it on the floor a bit more, which, you know, at League One level is still quite rare. So if you can make it work and you can do it effectively, you're going to be in luck. So having defenders who can play with the ball at their feet is a big plus for us. And really, I'm just buzzing to get the season going, really, to sort of see where we end up, because we've made some really good signings, and we should be at the top end of the table.
Exciting times. So, yeah, no, that's good again. Thank you very much. From a Spurs point of view, guys, I'll start with you, Bob. Did anyone else impress you, apart from maybe names that have been mentioned, you know, Sarr, Thompson?
I know I mentioned him already. I think Odegaard will run aggressively at players, and he's dynamic around the edge of the box. Maybe it's just me having a bit of a soft spot for him. I thought he was good. I thought, I know it was mentioned there, but even Romero stepping up and stepping in shows how Frank probably is going to want him to play. Just as well on the difference in the lineups, I like how we split Romero and Van de Ven, given the injury records over the last couple of years. It's nice for them to get minutes in with different centre-half pairings in Vuskovic in this game, and obviously down to the following game. I thought was positive. But yeah, I thought it's hard to add too many more people in, obviously, other than Sarr, you know, who's mentioned. I said Odegaard, Romero, I like to say how he stepped in. But yeah, no, I thought, again, I think we're all pretty limited in the amount of minutes we saw of this, so it's hard to give that really in-depth analysis on it. But it was a better, I think, game, obviously, than the next one insofar as for what pre-season is for, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Absolutely, thank you. Joseph, would you say it's a case of a good performance, but got to cut out the mistakes?
Not really, no. To be honest,
No?
I don't think it was a great performance. Not in any way of trying to be rude on Wycombe. But again, Tottenham are a Premier League side against a team currently in League One. And again, like George said previously, the result isn't what matters. It isn't what matters. But Tottenham should be going into that game and they should be able to get through it and win that game quite comfortably. And the point is, realistically, that game was even. It wasn't the fact that Tottenham dominated and Wycombe got 2 lucky goals. It was an even game between two. It looked like evenly matched sides. I understand, obviously, Wycombe are getting close to the start of their season, so maybe they're a bit more prepared, a bit more, ready for the season to start. But I don't know. I just think I'm sure we'll kind of have an overall conversation about the 2 games, but I think it's quite telling that Tottenham got 2 draws against 2 League One clubs. I don't think it was great from Spurs to, again, there was little cameos that I thought were impressive. Obviously, Pape Sarr, and like Bob said, I think Romero was okay. I think, again, some of the youngsters who came in were okay. But again, it's more just the fact of, I feel like it's those games that we should really go in and dominate, and it wasn't the case. And that's fair play to Wycombe as well, because they came prepared and they played well. But I didn't see enough from Tottenham to sway me and think, wow, I'm really excited for the season. And I'm definitely not excited for the rest of pre-season because we've got some tough games coming up against Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern Munich, which are going to be 10 times as difficult as what we just faced. So yeah, not really impressed in terms of our performances. But again, it is only pre-season, so got to take it with a pinch of salt.
No, fair enough. I mean, he'd be questioning if there's something wrong with you if you're happy with a couple of draws against League One sides. But I think you make some good points. You're absolutely right that it isn't just about the results, but we need to be doing better. I think it's going to take time, but we've definitely got some tough games coming up. George, good outcome for Wycombe, would you say? And has it given you confidence going into the season? You talk about you being excited for it.
Yeah, like I said, the result isn't really important. It's all about minutes and fitness. But to come away with a draw in a away game, if you can call it that, it shows the direction we're heading in. You could mention that Tottenham aren't match fit, aren't really ready to go, but you'd imagine their quality would shine through in moments, which it did. And so for Wycombe to get through that defence on a couple of occasions, I think Wycombe were quite unlucky to not have a couple more goals. That bodes well. It looks good in our favour. And against League One teams, if we can put together some of those moves again, we're going to be in luck. The standard of football are worlds apart, regardless of whether it's pre-season or the middle of the season in a cup game. And so the fact that we can sort of put together that sort of performance, have those moments against Tottenham, puts us in good stead.
If your transfer window closed tonight, George, what would you rate it out of 10?
Be hard not to give it a 10. I've been watching Wycombe.
I wish I could say the same thing.
It's very different in League One. Contracts with everything, so there's a massive sort of squad turnover. So in the Premier League, you can get away with making 1 or 2 signings and be sort of happy with that ish. In League One, the 2 or 3 year contracts, they end every summer. Agents have a massive impact. They move their clients on to better contracts for a little bit more money. It's just how it goes. So the squad turnover every summer is huge. But I think we have improved massively this summer. Wycombe Wanderers in League One are signing players from Feyenoord and Basel, whether they're youth products or seasoned pros. I didn't think I'd be saying that 5 years ago. So it shows how far we've come. It shows that the project we've got is able to be sold to these players. We just hope that they can perform on the pitch.
George, would it be fair to say your club is on an upward trajectory with ambitious owners? Because it looks quite exciting if you look into the story of Wycombe Wanderers and where this club is going and where they want to take you.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at in detail. Even just have a glance at where we sort of were 10 years ago. Ainsworth was here and he was buying goal nets and training cones out of his own pocket because we couldn't afford it. And now we've just thrown £3 million down on a training base, which for League One is mental. The work going in at the stadium is crazy. We're spending over $1 million on players left, right, and centre, which again in League One is pretty unheard of, especially for Wycombe. So yeah, massive upward trajectory. And like I said, it's all about translating the off the pitch success onto the pitch, because really that's the end goal. You can do what you want off the pitch and in the ground, but if you're not winning games of football, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah, exactly that. No, I do, of course, wish you all the best ahead of the season. But last but not least, George, final question to you before I let you go. If you had to put your neck on the line, you talk about being an exciting season. Where are you going to finish in the league this season?
It's a tricky one because we got so close last season, top 2 until 3 games to go, and then bottled it massively. There's a joke to be made there somewhere, but I won't make it. So hopefully this season we're going to go one better, and we're going to finish top or second, not worry about the playoffs, and we can enjoy our summer stress-free.
I wish you all the best in that. I'll definitely be watching out now for Wycombe Wanderers. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. Where can people find you across social media, George? And Wycombe Way, of course.
Yeah, it's at the Wycombe Way across social media, Twitter, Snapchat and Instagram. The same handle everywhere.
Thank you very much. All the best and good luck for the season ahead.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye. Right, so that's George, the Wycombe Wanderers fan. We thank him, and we move on to Luton Town. So let's introduce our Luton Town guest, again, opposition perspective. Lewis, can you hear me? If you can, are you well?
I could be better. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Is that to do with a defender you've sold, I take it?
Yes, he didn't play against you guys on the weekend due to, I put in quotes, a injury to his calf, but it turns out we have accepted a fee by Millwall, so he's going back to the Championship in this upcoming season.
Oh dear. Oh, we'll get into that a little bit later. Lewis, talk to people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so Luton fan, make Luton Town content and also EFL content. Whatever league Luton are in, that's the content I make.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Let's get into it then, the Luton review. So the top lineup, for people who didn't see it, was Vicario, Donnelly, Van der Ven, Danso, Spence, Moore, Gray, Basuma, Johnson, Tell and Kudus. As Kyle said, very evenly and balanced teams from Team 1 against Wycombe to Team B against Luton. You can't say one team really is better than the other. I think you could make a case either way. So let's get into it. Joseph, start with you. Was it a surprise to see Brennan Johnson starting on that left-hand side and Mohamed Kudus on that right-hand side, or was that what you expected, considered, Kudus' best position is on that right?
Yes, and it's a bit of a difficult one, and this is where again I think we need to obviously look at the market. I think especially if someone's to leave, I think Kudus is the right wing starting winger, and I think Johnson will probably be that kind of backup right winger. And I think Tottenham need to go out there and go and find a left winger. Obviously Odebear played in the game before, or even a backup striker, because obviously Matthias Tell played through the middle. Currently, the only real recognised striker is Solanke and I guess Will Lancashire in a certain extent. But again, it was just I think Tottenham do need to address that front line. But yeah, I'd rather have seen Kudus starting at right wing and have Johnson on the left, because Kudus is going to be our starting right winger next year, and we need to see how he integrates into the team and how he works in the Frank system. So as expected, I was excited to see how Matthias Hell and Archie Gray played, especially after their kind of long summer of under 21 European action. Let's just say it wasn't great overall, but we'll get into that. But again, lineup wise, again, it was good to see a mix, like Kyle said. But I think it's the right decision. Kudus should be the starting right winger, and unfortunately, Brennan Johnson just keeps on playing worse and worse, and is kind of pushing himself out of the squad.
Do you honestly think that?
Yeah, I don't even know. I just can't. I don't see what Brennan Johnson brings to Tottenham much. I appreciate what he's done in terms of the goals he scored last year, but that's not enough. The players across the board should be able to score goals for us, and unfortunately, I don't see enough from Brendan Johnson outside of that. So
fair enough. Tell you what, Joseph, I will ask you though, would you rather Brennan Johnson go missing in games and get the goals and assists that win games, or be here, there, and everywhere? Maybe Kudus at West Ham, some would argue, but I'm thinking like a Traore, a busy player, taking on players 1v1, but have no end product.
I would rather see us dominate games and win games comfortably, and I don't feel like Brennan Johnson's going to add to that enough. It's more just, again, I appreciate the goals he was scoring, but it's not like he was going out and scoring these screamers. He was getting in the right positions at the right time, which is a skill in itself. But we should be able to find a player who can do that as well as do other things and bring more to the squad. It's what Tottenham want to aspire to if they want to be. It's what other teams have in terms of their wingers. You know, other teams, their wingers can provide much more than just putting the ball in the back of the net. So, again, I don't want to be too harsh on him. I think, you know, there is some qualities he can bring, but he should not be starting for Tottenham Hotspur next year. And I think Kudus will show that. Kudus will show that he's got the quality that is a starting position for Tottenham. And hopefully, if it's not Odebear or Tell, a left winger is brought in that will also show that. But again, it doesn't mean that Johnson can't be used as a squad player next year. But I do think, I don't know, since he's come in, I haven't seen enough from him to warrant 50 million we spent.
No, I think I can't argue that either. That's fair enough. And where I will agree with you is I also think he's going to have a different role maybe under Thomas Frank. He'll be a lot more will be required of him, let's say. I don't think he's going to be that kind of person, the back post tapping merchant that some would call it. I think Frank's going to go, look, you need to take on the man, you need to put a lot of balls in the box, which Thomas Frank's system does. So and naturally, Kudus suits that more.
I think one thing that could be interesting is I thought possibly, it depends on what Frank's wanting to play. I thought there's a chance that he could end up utilising him as a striker even. I know that seems a bit, a bit different. But again, we are light in that area of the pitch, and I thought that maybe you could have seen him either play alongside Solanke or maybe just play up front on his own at some points. But again, that wasn't the case yesterday. I think it was Matthias Tell starting up front, wasn't it? And then Johnson on the left. So we'll see. But I think it's clear. I think even from that decision to play Kudus on the right, that Kudus is going to be that starting right-sided player. Obviously, I know for West Ham, they had Jared Bowen, so they kind of forced Kudus to play on the left, and Jared Bowen was very good. But I think for our team, Kudus comes in and he is the starting right winger for us. So,
Yeah, I do agree with that. Bob, what do you make of Joseph's statement that Brennan Johnson shouldn't be in this starting 11 going into the new season?
Yeah, I wouldn't have him starting 11, but I think he's a decent squad option. Like, we're going to have 48 games minimum next season. That's right, 38 plus 8 in Champions League group stages, and then 1 League Cup, 1 FA Cup minimum. Obviously, with the run in each, that could be well into the 50s. So, yeah, I think he's a decent squad player. He can cover right across the front three-ish. Like, I know, obviously, the left, he's not as strong. I kind of agree with Joseph. I think there's a chance that he's converted into a covering player from Solanke, especially if we'll come back to Richarlison leaves as well. So I wouldn't be surprised in that. But with regards squad player, I feel he's good enough to be a squad player. But yeah, I wouldn't have him as my starter. He's probably my third choice, right midfield or right side of the front three, really, behind Kudus. I still think Kulusevski's a right-sider, given that Maddison's, I think, our best 10. Again, I know certain people might disagree with me on that. Just my own opinion, though. So I think, his game time could be limited, but if he's second, third choice right-side midfielder, I wouldn't lose too much sleep on that. And look, maybe it is like a bit emotional based on what happened in Bilbao. The football's all about emotion, and I'm not going to apologise for it. But I wouldn't be. I don't think he's our biggest problem and who we need to get out. I think there's a few more in there that probably need to go first. But on the flip side, he's certainly one that we'd probably get a few quid for should we sell him. So there is that side of it. So look, to say I'm on the fence, I'm feeling like Jamie Redknapp and how much I'm sitting on the fence here. But I feel I don't agree, but I wouldn't have him starting.
Fair enough. I think that's fair. Thank you very much, Bob. Kyle, where are you kind of sitting at the moment, having heard all of that on the Kudus Johnson situation?
I agree with what everything has been said other than about the £50 million not being justifiable. I think that goal alone in Bilbao writes off the £50 million sale. I think that kind of makes it worthwhile just because he gave us that night or week, really. I think the celebrations lasted that long. But yeah, I mean, I can understand why Frank maybe wanted to play him on the left, because we saw with kind of Wissa, who was more of a striker but deployed out wide on the left as a right-footed left winger. But I mean, I can't remember exactly who the fullback was. Lewis will be able to say. Your right back who was up against Brennan, he absolutely rinsed him for the majority of the game that I watched. Did not let Brennan have a sniff in. I'm not sure if Lewis knows who it was specifically, but
yeah. So we've got right wing back Walters, but I thought it was Makosso that actually dealt with Brendan Johnson the most, who was playing as the right sided centre half. So I thought Brendan Johnson managed to get past Walters because there was the space in behind because Walters was pushing up. But when it was Johnson versus Makosso, I think Makosso won the battle every single time.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like I appreciate, like Joseph and Bob have both said, like I appreciate the goals that he has scored, but he is quite useless. Is quite harsh, but not very. Can't really.
He's very one-dimensional. There's not a lot to his game, and I think sometimes when you look at the Premier League wingers that you've got at the moment, you see them being able to do so many different things. And the problem is with Brennan Johnson is, I mean, one of the key things you need as a winger is one-on-one attack. And the fact that he can't really take on his man and beat him very often is a problem. And that's one thing that so far, since we've seen Kudus come in, that's one thing we can see he has in abundance. When he's one-on-one with a player, he likes to try and beat them. And we don't see that from Johnson anywhere near enough as a winger.
I think as well, like he's one of them who in the build-up, you really don't want him involved in the build-up of like passages of play. He is really like the last point of contact in the build-up to play, and that's not really what we want from our wingers. That should really be how Solanke is. I know Solanke the last season we saw him quite often dropping back and being involved in the midfield or like that kind of 10 play with Maddison, but I think a good squad option. We saw a few times as well in the past where he's came off the bench in the second half and he has scored or he has impacted the game. But I think if Levy says that he wants to compete like he says he has, I don't think Brennan should really be a starting player.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for all about that. I just want to have a little bit.
Can I
of
just
side
add
Yeah.
one more thing in on that? He is a teacher's pet in a good way. Like he learned what Ange told him to do, like hitting that back post at the right time. So I would give him, I'd certainly give him pre-season. I wouldn't be in a rush to sell him because if Frank has a way of playing and he is quite systematic in how he plays, I'd certainly give him a chance to learn a system because he seems to be able to do it reasonably well. Like I think under Ange he was told hit that back post, hit that back post, hit that back post, and he, to be fair to him, he consistently did it. I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him. Like, and as I said, certainly if he's a squad player, he's not the worst player to come off, bring a bit of energy. And and come on late. The other one, and I think this goes for a lot of our players, and we mentioned Sarr there in the last piece, like with certain players and how Frank isn't obviously as headstrong when it comes to a way of playing as Ange. Frank seems to have 4, 5, 6 different ways of playing. So by having all these different types of players, like, take Sarr, he's legs in the middle of the park. You take a Bentancur, he's a different style of centre midfielder and how he can take it. So I feel we're going to be playing I think we're going to have a different tactic for every game effectively this season at times. So by having all of these different options, and he is a different type of player to Kudus, he's a different type of player to a Kulusevski and how he plays. So I think he does potentially give you just a different option from that right-hand side even. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he saw him through the middle a bit as well.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for that little discussion. Lewis, can I bring you in on this? Well, not on what we were talking about, but on the kind of lineup and individuals. We'll start with you with the Spurs team. Anyone you feared maybe in that Spurs team beforehand, or on the polar opposite, looking forward to seeing live?
Well, when you were saying the intro at the start when I first came in, you were saying about how you thought the lineups were very balanced. As someone who obviously doesn't support Tottenham, I thought the team you put out against us was stronger than the one that played against Wycombe, in my opinion. Thought your defence was a lot stronger. Of course, Son makes a massive difference in attack. But I think my biggest concern was how do we break through you? Because is it Van der Veen at the back, the centre half? Very quick. And we had Naki Wells up top, who's a 35-year-old striker. So I didn't know how that was going to go because he's a striker that likes to get in behind and, go clean through one-on-one. But when you've got a quick centre-half like that kind of doesn't really happen. So for me, it was more, right, this is more of a technical, tactical test for Luton. How do we deal with a team that's 100% better than us at dealing with it out of possession and being able to, contain the attack, but also still cause a threat through like either counterattacks or, playing ourselves.
Okay, thank you. And thoughts on your lineup?
That's probably going to be roughly the same starting 11 that will start the season. I think we need a striker, a striker that can score 20 goals at League One level. They're not cheap, and they're quite rare to find nowadays. So, yeah, we're missing a striker, and also after our number one left back has now left the football club, we also need a replacement there as well.
Any idea why the club would do that? Is it purely to cash in on the money? Can you understand from their point of view why they've maybe cashed in tonight?
There's probably multiple reasons. The player himself might not want to play third division football, and you kind of, as a football club that needs a reset because of the back-to-back relegations, you don't want someone who doesn't want to be here, so you kind of got to just take the hit. But at the same time, he signed a long-term contract last season, so in terms of actually receiving money, the most likelihood of getting your maximum value for him is probably now rather than in 12 months' time when we might not win promotion. So I think, they cashed in now. The player doesn't want to be here. And also, I think he supports Millwall as well. So he's kind of going to the club he supports. So the move makes sense, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. Joseph, would you say that Luton were the better side in this game?
Yeah, completely. I think it was quite a poor game in general. I think from both sides, there wasn't really too much to shout about. But I think they had the better chances throughout the game. I thought Tottenham looked void of any kind of attacking threat, of any kind of creativity through the middle. And like Lewis said, I think we did have a good defensive line out there. But even then, Luton had their chances. They got through and had a couple of moments where they could have scored. They could have made more from opportunities. They had a couple of free kicks in good areas that they didn't make anything of as well. So, yeah, I mean, from a Tottenham point of view, it was a really, really poor game for Luton. I think, again, I think they can take a lot of positives from nullifying any kind of attack from Tottenham. Although the attack I wasn't very impressed with, they are supposed to be world-class footballers, and Luton seemed to nullify that really well. So, yeah, again, for me, really disappointing from a Spurs point of view. Just any kind of creative spark, there was nothing really from Spurs. And, yeah, I think Luton should be really happy with how they performed in general. If they can be solid like that going into their League One season, they should be fine. They obviously don't want to, not to pile it on Lewis, but you don't want a third continuous relegation, I'm sure. So, from how they played, they looked solid, and that's what I think you're going to need in League One.
Good point. Lewis, what did you make of how your side played in this game? Would it be fair to say that you were definitely on top?
I thought we'd done quite well. What I was more impressed with was how comfortable we were at playing out from the back, because last year we tried that in the Championship and we just didn't look comfortable at all. So to try it against a Premier League team and be comfortable at doing it and being successful at doing it as well, I was very, very happy. Just the transition from defence to attack, I was very impressed. I really like our goalkeeper. So thank you guys for allowing us to have Keeley. I can see him going on to having a really good career. His passing ability is, I don't think I've ever seen it from a goalkeeper, from a modern day goalkeeper like that. Of course, you've got your Edisons, your Addisons in the Prem, but to see it in the third division of English football is going to be really, really special. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. But yeah, I was just delighted that we managed to, one, look comfortable in possession. And then when you guys did actually break us down and did get in behind, we recovered quite well. So we are defending as a unit. There's a structure in place, whereas last year we didn't have none of that at all. So yeah, from a Luton perspective, that was our pre-season done. We finished it unbeaten. So we now go into this brand new season, despite the back-to-back relegations, but really positive after having a strong pre-season. Now, I know pre-season isn't everything and that doesn't define your year, but I think if you have a positive one, surely, that can bring you a little bit of some momentum going into the new year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Kyle, what did you make of that Tottenham performance? Did we look disjointed?
We just looked a bit kind of lethargic, kind of playing it as almost as if like 60, 70%. And like I said before, of how pre-season in the grand scheme of things isn't a massive deal. It's all about building up fitness from the summer, identifying maybe a few tweaks that need to be made, things like that, or adjusting to a new system. But it should also be, like I said earlier, a chance for players to kind of prove to a new manager as to why they should be picked as the starting position. And especially for players like, Bissouma, Johnson, who, it looks a bit uncertain as to whether they'll play as big of a role as what they maybe think they could. You'd expect them to be giving just a little bit more. A few times as well, we kind of just allowed, like Lewis said, with Luton and their build-up play, kind of just allowed them to play out from the back. And again, there was one moment in the game where Josh Keeley, he hit like a near 70-yard pass straight to their striker. And if it wasn't for Van der Ven with his recovery pace and just being a man mountain, we could have been in trouble. So, yeah, I mean, credit to Keeley. He was probably the best, one of the best players on the pitch. And we sold him a week ago, which is just typical Tottenham, really. But Kudus looked bright, but again, the players that he was playing with along the front line, they weren't really offering him too much. So it was kind of a case of where he was doing a lot for nothing, if that makes sense.
No, it does totally make sense. Thank you. Bob, what did you make of the Tottenham performance in this game? Would you say it wasn't quite as good as maybe the performance we saw against Wycombe?
I would say, yeah, no, it wasn't. Like, even not that scoring goals means a good performance, but when you're struggling to break down a team from League One, no disrespect, Lewis, it's not great. You asked me who the best player was in the Wycombe game. I think there's only the only player who really did anything for us, I thought, was Kudus. Lewis is right there about Josh Keeley. I'm Irish, as you can hear, and people have been talking about him since before he went to Spurs. When he went to Spurs, I was excited because people have been talking about him in Ireland prior to that. And I think he'll be back in the Premier League at some point with maybe with Luton. Lewis, no, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him at Luton for a couple of seasons and then kind of work his way back up through the footballing pyramid, on a side note. But yeah, it was poor. There's no kind of beating around about it. Yeah, I thought Kudus was the only player who played who we can talk about in a positive way. And the fact that we couldn't break down a League One team. Even, look, with Wycombe, you looked at it, you're like, okay, we scored 2, we pressed well, we forced a goal by the press, and that, I don't think there was anything positive to take from the Luton game. I even more worryingly so, I thought I would give some of the players from the Wycombe game a bit of a free pass. It was in the train, it was in Hotspur Way. It probably felt a little bit more like a training match than a proper preseason game. So maybe mentally it just didn't feel the same intensity wise, but they don't have that excuse against Luton playing Kenilworth Road. So yeah, I thought it was poor all around. Yeah.
Fair enough. Kyle, on a positive note, because there isn't many in this game, is there anyone that maybe impressed you or you thought were better than the rest, trying to make things happen?
I thought Kinski, when he came on in the second half, I think it was the second half he came on. I thought he was decent with the ball at his feet. I definitely trust him a lot more with the ball at his feet than I do Vicario. Vicario and as well from set pieces, Vicario does put me on edge a little bit. I think he's the better shot stopper than Kinski, but I think other areas Kinski is better than. He made a really good save. I'm not sure who the Luton player was, but it was a volley around like the inside the penalty area, and Kinski did really well to parry it out. I thought, that was a good sign. Donnelly filling in at left back as well, even though it's not his main position. I thought that was good. He kind of picked up in a few times in the 10 area. So again, it will be interesting to see what Frank has him down as. Is the left back position the position that he kind of wants him to mould into, or is that purely because we're a bit light in that department and he's probably the closest we've got to a left back? But I would say probably Kinski in the second half and Donnelly throughout the game.
Okay, two good shouts. Thank you very much. Joseph, I'll come to you. Anyone disappoint you in this game?
The majority of the team, I think. I mean, the only players for me that I could really kind of sit there and say were positive was probably the two centre-backs, Van der Ven and Danzo. I thought they played well. Again, Kinski, when he came on, I thought he was impressive. I think he made some really good saves. And again, I echo what Carl said with the ball at his feet. He looks so much more comfortable than Vicario. And that made me remember when I think it was a corner kick that came in and Vicario just completely swiped at it and got nowhere near the ball. And it's just, he seems like he's going to be a bit of a liability on corners still, which was something that we were hoping we'd get away from last year. But no, other than that, I mean, no, there wasn't really any positives to take from the game. Even when players came onto the pitch, I just didn't see enough from anyone to really sit there and start riding home about. I was hoping, I know there's a young 16-year-old Janai Byfield who's, kind of come out of nowhere almost. I haven't heard much about him, but it looks like they're kind of throwing him into the deep end, obviously going on pre-season on the Asia Tour as well, which, is great for him. I hope we see more of him, especially against some of these other teams, against Bayern Munich and Arsenal and Newcastle. It's going to be a massive thing for him. But again, even from him, I didn't see a lot. Again, we didn't look, I don't know. It just felt like a poor performance. And then when other players came on, it was still a poor performance. It was just, there wasn't loads to look at and think too positively on. So, it's tough. It's tough. You are going to have poor games. And again, we've got to give time for Frank. He's got to really instill his method and what he wants to happen for Tottenham going forward. And yeah, he's got a couple more games to do that. But again, we've got Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern Munich, and then PSG in the Super Cup. So, it's not an easy next 4 games, and you hope that he can get a bit more out of this team going forward through pre-season.
That's certainly the aim. Lewis, I come to you. Has this Luton Town performance given you maybe some encouragement going into the season, or if you're not happy with the performance, at least the result?
Yeah, I'm happy with the performance. I think right now my feelings at the moment is a little bit negative because of what's happening off the pitch in terms of what our board's doing and certainly like the lack of communication from them to the fans. That's why I'm a little bit not as positive. But if I just ignore the off the pitch noise and focus what's happening on the pitch, then there's a lot of positive stuff to be seen, to witness in this upcoming year. Matt Bloomfield has certainly improved things since he's taken over as manager. Unfortunately, wasn't able to keep us up last year in the Championship. But this pre-season campaign has been a massive improvement compared to last year. Like, you guys won't know because why would you, watching Premier League football? Our Championship pre-season campaign, the players weren't fit going into the year and the performances were absolutely terrible. And when Matt Bloomfield came in the January of this year, he came out and said the players are not fit. Like, our players midway through a football season are not fit, and the new manager is saying that. So he's improved a lot of things, and he's brought I would say, a good feel factor on the playing aspect of our football style at the moment. So it's just hopefully that we can have a really good positive start to the season, and then the stuff that's happening off the pitch can just be silenced a little bit, and yeah, we can proper focus on the real stuff, which is winning games of football rather than lack of communication between the board to the supporters.
Yeah, good. Glad it's not just Tottenham with that. Then that is good to know. Anyone that impressed you in this game in particular, Lewis?
So yeah, on Luton, obviously Keeley, because that was his first home game for Luton. Just the passing was outstanding. Makosto, who was the one who dealt with Brendan Johnson on the left hand side, really impressed with him. And then also he kind of filled in last minute. He played as our left wing back. His name's called Nigel Longvike. We've signed him on loan from Wolves with an option to buy. And considering he's more of a Van Dijk type of centre half, he filled in as a left wing back. And I thought he'd done quite well, to be honest with you, in a position that's not really his position. And also one of our midfielders called Saville, who was signed on a free transfer from Millwall. The amount of times he recovered the ball back off Tottenham I thought was amazing. He's quite experienced. He represents Northern Ireland. And the amount of times he just does the simple things correct. And I love it when footballers could just do the simple stuff right, give the ball to the more attractive, players on the pitch, on the ball. And just sometimes I think players like that, their work goes a little bit unnoticed at times, but he just does all the simple stuff really well. And I've got a feeling he's going to be my favourite player this year.
Good shout. I have to say, we'll come back to that at the end of the year. What are your thoughts, though, Lewis, on pre-season overall? Look at your results here and just, some kind of reports about your performances. It all looks really rosy.
Yeah, it is looking really good. Unbeaten pre-season. You can only take so much from a pre-season campaign, I feel, because even if you have a bad one, that doesn't mean you're going to have a bad season, and vice versa. If you have a good one, it doesn't mean your season's going to be good. But I think there was a lot of positive stuff from what we've seen so far. I think fitness levels were definitely there. We're already seeing the new signings embedded in with the older players, which is really good to see. So nice chemistry throughout the pitch. And I'm just really looking forward to the season now. I'm kind of glad that we are the first game, which is Friday night in front of the TV cameras. So hopefully we can really, if we want to win promotion back to the Championship, kind of set the tone for the season by beating AFC Wimbledon this Friday.
Yeah, of course, he always gets underway, just like Wycombe Wanderers. We had a Wycombe fan on earlier. I'm like, wow, it's such an early start to the year. But it's good for us Premier League fans that we have some football to watch. But can I ask you I'll get you to give your predictions for this season. If your transfer window closed tonight, what would you rate it out of 10? I have a feeling it's going to go down after the news today if you're selling your left back to Millwall.
Yeah, so if the window closes tonight, it's probably a 6.5 out of 10, because I do think we obviously need a left back to replace Alfie Doughty, who's just left. And also I do think we need a striker. I think if we can get those two options in, then it'd be close to like a 9.5 out of 10. I think that would be a really solid window from us. So just a couple more areas of the pitch which we need to recruit in for us. And then in terms of my prediction for this upcoming year, because we've got the parachute payments and because the squad which we got there is a lot of good players there. We've got quality and depth as well. So a lot of our squad players are they could easily get into the starting 11s at many League One clubs at this level. So because of those combinations altogether, also our manager was quite successful last time he was managing in League One with Wycombe. He was pushing Birmingham to the very max before he left them to join us in the Championship. I think with those four aspects which I've just mentioned, we should be challenging for the title. That's not me trying to sound big-headed, but I think if you've got parachute payments, you've got a financial advantage over all the other clubs in the league, and also the squad's really good as well. So I think we should be challenging at the very least. So hopefully I'll be celebrating promotion at the end of the year.
Fingers crossed for you. I mean, Alfie Doughty, I thought he'd done really well in the Premier League. What did you make in that season you're in the league? I thought he looked really good, especially going forward. He seemed to cause... but even the top six, real problems. These balls in the box. He's getting assists every week. I had him in my FPL team.
Yeah, Premier League season for us was fantastic. Up until the January window in the Premier League season, we were above the relegation places. But what not many people realise is we didn't actually recruit properly in January. We didn't bring more additions in. When you're just above those relegation places, you need to strengthen. And we kind of didn't do that. And then what happened is literally, I think within a week of the window closed, we had an injury crisis and we just couldn't recover from this injury crisis. And an injury crisis to a team like Luton is totally different to an injury crisis to Tottenham, for example, because at least your like academy players are at, you know, Championship, League One, League Two level, whereas our academy players are like more non-league. So there's such a massive like gap in quality in terms of and squad depth. So if we never had that injury crisis, I think we could have gave Nottingham Forest a proper good go with their point deductions, but it weren't meant to be.
No. Before I let you go, Lewis, where are you going to finish in the league this season? You talk about you could challenge for the title. If you had to put your neck on the line right now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to back us. I think we can do it. I think we can win the league.
Lovely stuff. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Where can people find you on the socials and remind people a bit about what you do on social media?
Yeah, so Lewis Williams on YouTube or Lewis Williams on Twitter as well. I make pretty much Luton Town content. I can talk Luton for days, and I make content about the EFL as well. Whatever league Luton are in, I kind of base my content around that league as well. So yeah, plenty of football content.
Lovely stuff. Thank you for your time. All the best and good luck for the upcoming season.
You too, guys. Wish you all the best.
And you. Thank you very much. See you later. All right, lovely. That's the Luton Town review done. So I want to talk about with you guys both games overall before we get into the transfer talk. Joseph, kick it off with you. 2 draws against 2 League One sides ultimately. Would you say that people are overreacting considering it's pre-season, or is the kind of response we've seen from fans on social media justified? Can you understand why they may be concerned?
I think, like Bob said earlier, football's a very emotional game. And I think these 2 results, it's not just the results, it's also everything else that's going around the club right now. The whole Morgan Gibbs-White thing and the lack of activity in the transfer market. I think it's just all encompassing a really terrible, a bad feeling in Tottenham fans and a worried feeling as well. I agree that I don't think the results are the biggest deal, but it's more, again, the performances weren't terrific. And again, as much as the results aren't a big deal, they're 2 League One clubs and we're a team that apparently has aspirations to win the Champions League and the Premier League. You should just be knocking aside these teams like it's nothing. As much as, again, with all due respect to them, if Tottenham want to be this team, these shouldn't even be, and again, it's not like the result matters that much, but it's just the fact of it shouldn't even be the case that we're drawing these games. It should almost be a walk in the park. And again, the performance is what worries me more. Again, I thought defensively in the Wycombe game, we were quite poor. And overall in the Luton game, we were very poor, especially in terms of creativity. I thought through the middle of the park, there was nothing there. Part of that might be because there was obviously no Maddison and no Kulusevski, and maybe with them back, things will change. But again, obviously, one player we'll come on to with Morgan Gibbs-White, he would have been integral to that. And now that is a player that we're not going to be getting. So I think it is telling that Tottenham got 2 draws against 2 League One clubs. I think we are very far behind the rest of the European positions, the top 6 clubs, maybe, especially the top 4, but even the top 6. And I think going into next year, we're really going to struggle if we don't get our act together and start making some kind of moves in the transfer window, because this team, there's a reason we finished 17th last year. It's not just the fact of us playing a certain style of football under Ange. It's not just the fact that we kind of threw in the towel halfway through the season. It was also because we were very poor in a lot of moments. 22 league defeats that's more than just one thing. And I think there's a lot of players that aren't good enough at Tottenham right now. And unfortunately, it seems like we're struggling to get them out the door to be able to get new players in the door. So it's, I don't know. I think it's hard to just pinpoint, the games. I think it's everything going on. I think that's why you're getting the reaction you're getting from Tottenham fans, because we're very unhappy with everything going on around the club, not just the results against 2 League One clubs.
No, that's fair. That's really fair. And it's a good points raised. Bob, how do you view the reaction across social media? Is people's kind of, I suppose, misery, I'm going to say, misery, justified? Or is it just jump into conclusions? Thomas Frank, early days.
Yeah, I sounded pretty negative about the Luton game there. I'm probably not as negative about it maybe as Joseph is feeling. I feel, look, at the end of the day, I think the most important parts were getting minutes in the legs. I mean, back one of the games was even played at Hotspur Way, I think says maybe it was even more of a training exercise than a pre-season friendly. I think the big ones are the ones to come now on tour, and when they get back, then I think are the bigger games when it comes to would I actually be too worried. I do agree with Joseph, though. I think fans are probably panicking a little bit based on what else is going on in the club and our inactivity. I know we're coming on to Morgan Gibbs White. I know that sentence has been said a few times this evening, but that's obviously an issue. I'm not as negative on the club for that issue, which we can talk about in a few moments, but I feel it's just the fact that we've been a little bit quiet so far. And there's been a lot of stories without much coming from it, but hopefully there's some changes on it. But I'm not as negative. For me, I said minutes in the legs, split the teams. If it was a case we had our first 11 out in both games a few days apart and we were drawing 2 games, I'd be a little bit more worried than kind of the balance of teams that we put out.
Yeah, again, share that with you. Carl, would you say that these 2 games are maybe further evidence that we need more in the window? Not disastrous, that, because it is pre-season at the end of the day, but maybe a little message to the owners that we need more?
Yeah, I just think, and again, that also kind of relates to, I think, a few fans' frustrations online is of it would be a bit different if we were playing like this and new players were coming in, and you could say like, okay, they're adapting to the club, they're adapting to playing here. Whereas, when Ben Davies is still taking part in pre-season, it's like, you've been here for near 11 years now. The same with Son. You've been here over a decade. You should really kind of know how to play football at Tottenham Hotspur. It is a big adjustment to new players coming in. So I think if it was a case of where we were fielding completely new sides of players that perhaps have not played with each other before or aren't really familiar to how Thomas Frank wants them to play, it would probably be a bit of a different kind of reaction online. But like Joseph said, it's a very emotional game. And I think with everything that's been going on, that was just kind of the last straw of that just makes everyone kind of like, when someone's really annoying you over and over and over, and then there's just that one comment that completely makes you just, I think those performances with everything that's been going on with Gibbs White, a lack of movement in the market kind of just boiled everyone over the top a little bit. But I don't think we should look into it too much. It is, again, getting minutes in the legs, finding any weak points, which I'm sure Thomas Frank has probably seen a fair few. He's not naive to know that he's got a fair bit of work to do with this Spurs team.
You certainly know that, as you say. But no, thank you. It's good to get your thoughts on that. I think you'll provide, reasonable comments about why we're seeing what we're seeing from fans at the moment, and it just it's vital context. But we'll move on to nicely transfers, which I've made you wait a long while for. So thank you for your patience, all of you on the panel and also all of you listening. Let's start with Morgan Gibbs White then and the saga. So if people have missed it, Morgan Gibbs White has basically signed a new contract and not the Forest until June 2028. Personally, I think this is extremely dodgy. The fact it's done after Forest have played a football match. He's in his full kit, looks absolutely knackered after the game. Mariakas has apparently flown over, unexpected visit, last minute after the game, completely missed the game. And it just looks very dodgy when you've got Gibbs White referring to Mr. Mariakas sitting in the Forest owner several times, like he's been held at gunpoint. But that's just how I feel. Joseph, did this surprise you? Did you see it coming maybe?
Yeah. No, I think I did. I actually did feel it. Obviously, my friends are all rival fans, and I talk to them daily about the situation, and they were always asking, "Do you think it's going to get over the line?" And the longer it went on, the more I was thinking, no, this isn't going to happen. Everyone kept on saying, all the in the knows on Twitter, and all these people kept on saying it's going to happen. He's going to be a Tottenham player. And I just didn't believe it because it kept on going on. And I just thought, if he was going to be a Tottenham player, why isn't he a Tottenham player now? There's no reason why it has to take this long. I understand a lot of people coming out and kind of having a go at Marinakis for it. I don't blame him on it. I think for him, he's doing exactly what we would want him to do if he was our owner. He's keeping hold of an asset, a player that is really good, and he's tied him down to a longer contract. We've seen this happen before. It happened with Chelsea and Olise. This kind of thing can happen. And the thing is, with Morgan Gibbs-White, he clearly wasn't desperate to join Tottenham, because I think if he was, he wouldn't have signed that deal, and he would have tried to push the transfer through. I don't think we saw any of that. So again, I'm disappointed. I love the idea of us getting Gibbs-White. It's not enough. I'm not so disappointed that it's like, oh, we've lost out on him. I think he's a good player, but he's not like this crazy player that I don't think he would have got us to a new level or anything like that. I just thought he fit the system really well, and he would have been quite a good player for us. But again, it is what it is. I think the thing that angers me the most about this whole saga is the fact that it's been 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of us working on this one deal where we haven't got it over the line, and we haven't heard anything else about what Tottenham are doing transfer-wise. It feels like we were solely focused on this one move for Morgan Gibbs-White, and we haven't really been exploring any other avenues with that with that possibly falling through. And I look at the players who would have been my alternatives, and I think about maybe Eberechi Eze, I think about Xavi Simons. They both look like they found a club now, in the fact of Eberechi Eze looks to be kind of wanting to go to Arsenal. And I really want Tottenham fans to stop talking about Eze, because he will probably go to Arsenal. And I think we are pining for a player that does not want to be at Tottenham. And it's just a bit embarrassing. I think we should let go of the idea of Eze coming to Tottenham. And then Xavi Simons, who I thought actually was a realistic one that we could go and get, he's now obviously looks like he's going to go to Chelsea. And I think if we were looking at these players at the start, when we were looking at Morgan Gibbs-White, they could possibly be coming into Tottenham, whereas now, 2-3 weeks later down the line, it's not going to happen. So that's what's really frustrated me, the fact that Tottenham, it seemed they was just solely, they had a vision to go and get Morgan Gibbs-White, and they couldn't get it done. And I know some people might be a bit might have a bit of sympathy for Daniel Levy and Johan Lange, and it's not completely in their control. But I'm sorry, if we want to act like a big club, you go and get this deal done as quick and as possible, get it done as quick as you can. If Marinakis was rejecting 70, 80 million, okay, fair enough. But from what I know, we tried to trigger the release clause of 60 million, and then we didn't do anything else in terms of, we were waiting for kind of everything to blow over and we'll eventually come in. Why would Tottenham not going out there and going, you know what, we'll add another 5 million, we'll add another 10 million onto this, because we want to get Morgan Gibbs-White. We are desperate for him to come in. That's how a big club acts. I mean, I think this is what happened with Van Dijk when he went to Liverpool. They put in a bid for the player. He was about to sign a new deal, and they went, no, we want him. We will do everything to get this deal over the line. How much more money do you want? 15 million? Okay, we'll pay it. They got him. This is what big clubs do, and Tottenham haven't been doing that. And so I do have a lot of blame for Daniel Levy and for Johan Lange. I've been really disappointed in Lange since he's come in. I haven't seen any real, other than maybe the Bergvall deal, I haven't seen anything from him that I've been that impressed with. And I'm desperate for Fabio Paratici to come back in, because I think he has ambition for Tottenham. I don't see it from Lange. To me, he just fits the narrative of Daniel Levy and kind of, the narrative of Tottenham being this team that just gets rejected here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, that's my rant over for now. But
thank you.
Yeah, just really disappointed in this whole ordeal. I think it's one fact of the player then signing for Nottingham Forest and agreeing a new deal. Fair enough. I've heard a lot about Morgan Gibbs-White and his personal life and everything like that, and everything going on. And fair enough, if he thinks it's the right decision for him. It's a shame. I think if he was a bit more ambitious and wanted Champions League football, I would have hoped he would have pushed through that deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if next year he ends up going to a bigger club for more money, just like we saw Elise do with Chelsea, kind of rejecting that, and then obviously going to Bayern Munich for around 80 million the season after. So yeah, it's a disappointing one for Tottenham, and I think there's a lot. It shows a lot of who's in charge of Tottenham. They couldn't get that over the line.
No, I think you raised some really interesting points that maybe others wouldn't have the boldness to do about kind of Lange and Levy, how they have to take some of the blame, and maybe we didn't act like a big club. And as you say, pay that 5 or 10 million extra, or go and look for someone else. In the meantime, it's just with Tottenham, it seems to throw all your eggs into one basket, and it's the same with whether we want a manager or a player, and that just really frustrates me. But you mentioned, go on, Joseph.
Well, I was just going to say one other thing, that, like you said, looking at other alternatives, it didn't feel like we were doing that. Obviously, I don't know if we were or not, but it didn't seem like we were doing that. Throughout the last 2-3 weeks, we haven't heard anything on really Tottenham transfer news, especially in that position. And you've now got, again, the likes of Xavi Simons, who is a comparable-ish player. He's now going to Chelsea. Eberechi Eze going to Arsenal, most likely. And now we're getting linked to the likes of Harvey Elliott and Jacob Ramsey, who are notable step down from what Morgan Gibbs-White is, whereas the other two are maybe comparable in some way, in my opinion anyway. I'm sure maybe other people might think differently, but now it looks like we're kind of being left scrounging for like leftovers and not really going after the players that we were probably kind of looking at in the first situation. So really poor management from Tottenham.
Indeed. And you mentioned Johan Langer. Well, actually, the recruitment at Aston Villa, in my opinion, has been so much better since he left the club in that window in particular, getting Asensio and Rashford on loan. He was a big part of why Villa could continue in that race. Of course, they would have wanted it to go a lot better. In theory, I would think maybe they could have got Champions League football, but those signings kept Villa alive, kept them in the race. And while he was there, the signings weren't great.
There's a reason why Villa fans weren't unhappy for him leaving.
No.
They were happy to see him go. And most Villa fans were very happy to see the back of him. And he hasn't impressed me since he's come to Tottenham. I'm hopeful that now that Paratici's kind of ban is finished somewhat, I think there's still some speculation with that. I really want him to be back in, because I saw a director of football who, in the constraints of Tottenham Hotspur, still performed and got us players that we needed. I haven't seen that from Langer so far.
As you say, it's the love for the club. Like Paratici, I mean, I remember going to a hospitality experience. For one game, I didn't use my normal season ticket. I had a hospitality experience for my birthday, and sat just like behind Paratici. He was so animated. He spent more time standing up than sitting, and he was taking phone calls during the match while celebrating. And it was just, he had absolutely loads going on. This was in the transfer window, but he was like really like even more than the players were. Like he was getting in their way, and he proper like almost like engrossed in the Tottenham project, and I think he loved it. So it'd be great to have him back. But I'm going to bring the others in now. Bob, I'll come to you. I mean, Gibbs-White, waste of time, wasn't it, really, the deal? Well, how do you feel about the whole saga that has now come to a close?
Yeah, so just, I suppose, to put myself where I stand on things, really, I'm not a big Daniel Levy fan. I'm not one to defend him. I'm not at all a fan, to be honest. In saying that, I don't put this on him. I think Marinakis, look, I get it. I get how if you're a Forest fan, you'd absolutely love Marinakis for everything he does for them. Or Mr. Marinakis, should I say. But I don't think this is the first stunt he's pulled. We've seen him, the way he's gone on with the Palace situation, the Europa League, with the refereeing, getting Clattenburg in a couple of seasons ago, making a fool of himself, running on the pitch with Nuno. I think he's consistently doing these stunts. Now, what I wouldn't be surprised about is we knew about there was that confidentiality leak that over his release clause, and Spurs really couldn't push further maybe on it. Again, I know, Joseph, you said similar, we don't really know what's going on, but we can only really speculate. And I'd say for the last few weeks, a couple of weeks, they were potentially trying to find a way around that and see what they could do without going legal on it. So there's definitely something that's gone awry in the whole situation. Now, I like Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he's an exciting player. I was happy to see us going in for him when we did, but, and I'm not just saying this, I don't think that position should be is our biggest priority, our biggest need in the window. I would have rather that money been put towards, like, I'm saying a name, and Adam Wharton. People think that's wishful thinking, saying that we should be going in for Adam Wharton, but I think he's the type of player we should be going in for. And I'd much rather have seen us maybe put that plus maybe another 20 million in, as Joseph said, act like a big club and go in and get him, like Arsenal did with Rice a couple of seasons ago, and just get a piece of the jigsaw that they were so obviously missing. In saying that, I certainly wasn't saying no to Morgan Gibbs-White, because obviously there's quality there, given Madison and Kulusevski's injuries over the last couple of seasons. It may be a need, but it wasn't something where I was crying out for. As I said, when I saw the news coming through, I was like, geez, that's great. It's a nice big name coming in. We all like to see those exciting transfers. But it wasn't one I was thinking was an absolute need. I would sympathise with the club. Maybe they cut corners in the deal. I'm not sure. Look, we all know agents in football at the moment, what they can get up to and how he may have just been pining for a better deal for his client. I don't know. But something happened along the lines, and Harry, as he said, we all saw that strange interview pitch side with Marinakis and Gibbs White. It's one of the strangest deals I've ever seen not to take place. And I suppose as Spurs fans, we've seen a few over the years. I'm old enough to remember the Rivaldo links back in 2002. Morientes was one that was always linked and never happened. But yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it's a waste of time. We spent too much time on it, and that's where I would agree with Joseph. Whereas I don't blame Levy for what's happened. I'm reluctant to say act like a big club and give an extra 15 million for the sake of giving an extra 15 million, if that's potentially coming out of an overall pot that's used for other positions as well, where we potentially need to strengthen. So I am reluctant to say that, but I do think we should have probably just got to the answer quicker and moved on from there and started looking at other appointments. On a complete devil's advocate side of it, though, when we say we haven't heard anything the club are doing as an alternative, we hadn't heard anything about the Gibbs White deal until that day it dropped, when Romano, here we go, and Ornstein was saying what's happening. So maybe there is just a different change in tact since Lang has come in from that point of view of leaks and stuff not getting out. I don't know. But look, it's all speculation.
Exactly, it all is. For me, it just feels weird why you'd do it then on the side of the pitch, and would you not do it later on in the night when everyone's gone and you change? And why just after he's literally it looked like 2 or 3 minutes after? Because I think you can see the players in the background, if I remember quickly. This makes like a really stupid thing to say, but I want to know how much of a say Morgan Gibbs White actually had in this. I think maybe he was worried about leaving Forest on a bad terms, because Gibbs White, it was the same at Wolves as well. He seems to be a people person, a community person, clearly loves Forest, wouldn't want to leave on bad terms. So I think Mariakis has been in his ear. This is what you'll leave. The fans already hate you, this, that, and the other. I just think he's flown over and said, look, you need to sign this contract. You need to do this interview with me. And I just feel he's quite insecure to get the club as well to post the assuming he did on socials, because their announcement to it was something like along the lines of a statement of intent from our owner, Mariakis. I think he, realised that if he lost Elanga and Gibbs White, Forest's 2 best players last season in a single week, that doesn't look good for him. And Forest fans are starting to pile the pressure on him, even despite how well they've done last year. There's been a little bit of outside talk of protest going on amongst Forest fans. I spoke to a couple actually YouTubers that are involved in kind of overseeing that. So that was really interesting to hear. They were watching that Morgan Gibbs White situation. So did that have a part to play? But Carl, I'll bring you in on this. Enough of me talking. What were your thoughts on the way it was announced? Just didn't feel right, did it? I mean, I can understand and respect whatever decision Gibbs White makes, but does he know what he's doing here?
Listen, I'm not going to say anything potentially defamatory in here, but just search Marinakis 2014 into Google, and you'll see a few things of where it's not a great reading. It's really strange. Like you said, Harry was kind of sat there alongside him. He said his name like near 4 or 5 times in the space of the interview. You could kind of almost like hear it in his voice, like that he wasn't really signing the deal because he wanted to be there as such. Maybe there's a gentleman's agreement in it because it was only a year extension. So it's kind of delaying the inevitable, I suppose, of like where he probably will end up leaving at some point. But I suppose it's a case of just where they've got Europe, they potentially want to build on it again and get Europe for a second year, and they'll be in a lot better off position than what they were. But like everyone has said already about Daniel Levy, I don't think there was too much that he really did wrong. I think Levy, he has his critics, but he's a very smart man. He's a very smart businessman, and I don't think he would have went into a deal purposely knowing that he hadn't approached it properly or correctly. So I generally do think on his part that, or his team's part of the whole approaching Gibbs White's agent about a fee or anything like that, that he thought, you know, there is a case of where we could be pulled up on this by Forest, that we're going about this in the wrong way. But he's shown his hands now. He's shown that he does have that money available of 60 million. And I think us fans are now expecting him to be like, right, okay, you didn't get this target, but we know you've got the money now, so spend it elsewhere. Not even necessarily on a profile the same as Gibbs White, because I agree with Bob of that. It's not necessarily a position that we need to strengthen on too much. We've got Maddison, who is probably our second best player arguably our second best player in the team. There are definitely areas that kind of need addressing a lot more quickly than the 8 or 10 spot. You'd be looking at maybe an Adam Wharton, who, if you spend an extra 25 million or so, you can go after Wharton. Angelo Stiller, who I'm sure you guys have probably got so tired of me talking about in the group chat, but I think that he would be a perfect player for us. He fixes our lack of progressive passes in the team quite hugely. But I think, in conclusion, like everyone said, the longer that it went on, the more I did kind of start to think, like, you know, it's been a little bit too quiet. There's not been much media attention on it. It's kind of just reporters regurgitating the same news that we already knew from a few days ago. And it's just not really a great sign when something like that happens.
Absolutely. I mean, I despise Mariakis in particular after this Gibbs White saga, but, you know, if you're a Forest fan, you'd be really happy with him. You're protecting your best assets, and it just has this like attitude that no club's going to mess with us. And you often see a lot of small clubs bow down to the big clubs and very respectful. He's none of that. He's like, yeah, we're not in Forest. This is where I want us to be, and I'm going to do everything to win. Of course, there are pros and cons to that. He will literally, I genuinely believe this, do anything he can to win. And you talk about his record not being very pretty, Carl, before coming to Premier League. You're spot on. His record's not pretty at Forest either, I'd argue, from waiting for an official in the tunnel and surprising him, and then following him into the referee's room, and then the cameras appear to show him refuse to leave. And then you have that moment with Nuno, when whether Awoniyi's injured or not, you don't go around shouting and bawling at your manager like that. And some of it's all for cameras. And what's Nuno doing on the pitch? Imagine Daniel Levy doing that in the uproar. It's like storming on the pitch and having a go at Ange or having a go at Thomas Frank. I mean, you never hear the end of it now. That's what we'll be talking about now. So I don't think his record's pretty. And then we saw that statement, didn't we? After Forest had a few decisions go against them. I can't remember what Premier League game last year. We saw the statement written by like a nursery student, you know, about how life's unfair and everything's against Nottingham Forest. So his record is not pretty at all. Joseph, I'll come to you on Gibbs White. Is it the end of the world, considering the quality and depth we have already in that number 10 role? Is it more about maybe the ability and quality of Gibbs White more than even the 10, like the name of more than Gibbs White?
It's not the end of the world. I think he would have fit the system quite well, because I think he also has a bit of grit and a bit of kind of battle in him in terms of like defensive outputs as well. It's not just, you know, when he's on the ball, he's creating. I think as well he can move the ball well with you know, up the pitch, and I think he's really, really great creatively. I think he would have been really good, and I understand people saying we've got Maddison, we've got Kulusevski. Both of them seem to have injury issues. I do think Kulusevski's better through the middle than he is out wide. So yeah, it's not the be all and end all. I think there is definitely other positions, like people have mentioned. I think a 6 is we desperately need, but it seems like, again, we have to wait for somebody to leave for that to happen. I think we will desperately need a left winger after Son leaves, which again looks like it's going to happen. And I think another position, which I don't know if we will go and get, but I think we need a left back, because we're going into this pre-season with Ben Davis being our only fit left back, which is abysmal. So yeah, definitely we need to look elsewhere anyway in transfers. I just think it's a sad indictment a little bit into Tottenham. Tottenham's just, it feels like it's a repetitive window every year. It feels like every single year we see something like this happen. I mean, it's happened with so many players in the past. Just where not this specific scenario, but just in terms of a player, it feels like we want a player, we're getting close to it, and then deal falls through for some reason. Jack Grealish, Dybala, there's loads of them, and it just always seems to happen to Tottenham more and more, and it's really disappointing. So again, I'm seeing stuff online about Rodrigo, which is honestly, I don't know why Tottenham fans are even entertaining it. I think it's so stupid because he's not going to come to Tottenham. He's not. If it ends up happening, then obviously I'll be ecstatic. But it's not going to happen. He's either going to go to a big club or he'll stay at Real Madrid. He's not going to come to Tottenham, and I think all it's doing is feeding everybody else to start throwing shade at Tottenham because people enjoy doing it. So we'll see what we do next. I think again it's a massive couple of weeks, and Tottenham haven't got a long time to get stuff done. It's a couple of weeks now, and again, like we said, there's at least 3 players. I think minimum 3 players we need minimum in a couple of weeks. It's not going to be easy, but they got to do something.
100%. Thank you. Bob, would you now say that we've fallen behind in the transfer window now the Gibbs White deal hasn't gone through? Would we have fallen behind anyway if the deal did go through, considering the amount of time that it took?
Yeah, I think we have. Like, especially if you look at a team like Chelsea, who seem to be behind everybody. I've just seen their talks worth saying that even if they bring in someone, who are they bringing in? They brought in Kittens. Who they've brought in today? Sorry. Even if they bring in Simmons,
they're looking at
Garnacho as well.
Yeah, Joel Hasso and Javi Simmons. It looks like they're coming in.
Yeah, and I know Chelsea are a different beast when it comes to how they go about their business, and I'd never want to be Chelsea either. But we've certainly fallen behind them. I personally don't think we were too far behind them before. I know last season we had a disaster of a season, but I don't think we were that far behind them, and now they've gone a fair bit ahead. Even United, they've brought in Cunha and Waymo. They're going to be competing with us, I think, this season, based on kind of, I suppose, both of our last seasons and what they've done then this season. Obviously, Arsenal are doing quite a bit of business. Liverpool have done a bit of business. We are falling behind. The only positives are Villa haven't done much and Newcastle haven't done much. Yeah. So I think we've fallen behind we'll say I'm not saying the big 6 because it's a term that people hate, but we're starting to fall behind the bigger spenders, we'll put it that way, are traditionally the bigger spenders in the Premier League. But I do think I'm still hopeful. I'm just an optimistic fan though, but I still think we'll pull something out of the bag.
That's what we like
I'm
on this
that idiot.
podcast. No, I like
it, Bob.
That's why I get both of you on, you see.
Yeah, you get two good sides of it.
See, I do think about it when I plan it, I promise. I love it. No, we like both sides, but optimistic, definitely, hopefully wins out. I don't know about with Tottenham though, but Kyle, can I ask you, are you I suppose jealous that clubs like Chelsea and Liverpool were really doing a good job, a sterling job, in fact, of moving players out the door and getting a lot of money for them, allowing them to instantly reinvest back into signing players? Are you frustrated that maybe we haven't moved out as many players as you like? I'm thinking about maybe general players that the majority of Spurs fans would want to maybe leave, like Gill, Richarlison, players like that.
Yeah, I mean, like Bob said, I wouldn't want to be like Chelsea with maybe the spending, like the actual buying the players. But credit where it's due, they offload players really well. I mean, the fact that they've got a combined total of 120 million for Havertz and Madueke to Arsenal, which, to be honest, Madueke he raises the floor of Arsenal, but he doesn't raise the ceiling. If that makes sense, he's a good squad option, but he doesn't drastically improve them. And the fact that they got 50 million for him when he was okay for Chelsea, but nothing, didn't really set the world alight, did he? So that's something that I am quite jealous of, the fact that and I guess that's what enables them to spend the money that they do spend, is the fact that they get big sums for their players. But I think, like it's been said before, I think Villa, Newcastle have had quite underwhelming transfers so far. I'd actually probably say Newcastle have had one of the worst. The fact that now Isak wants to go, they missed out on Ekitike. Livramento has reportedly said he wants to join City. They missed out on Trafford to City. It doesn't look great for them. And it's just such a shame because we had such a perfect foundation to build on off of winning the Europa League. We had kind of that attraction, that more of that attraction for players to come. You can say, like, you know, we're wanting to build upon this. We've already got the stadium, but we've already got the training grounds that is just thrown down our throats all the time of, oh, we've got this amazing stadium, this amazing training ground, you should come. But we've now actually got the silverware to go alongside it to actually attract players to come over. So I think there's still a few more weeks to go. We do like to leave things late, and as well with Lange, a lot of his dealings are quite private. The main media don't really pick up on it until it's really like advanced stages of negotiations. For example, the Gibbs White deal, that kind of came out of nowhere, really. It was kind of Kudus was all sorted, and then a few hours later, Ornstein says that we've triggered we're really interested and we're thinking of triggering the release clause. So I think opinions can change so quickly. We went from saying a few weeks back that this could be one of the best transfer windows we've had in our modern history, and now it's being labelled as one of the worst we've had in recent history. So only time will tell whether it will become a successful one or not.
Yeah, well said. Lovely summary. Thank you, Kyle. Let's go, Mio, move on to club captain Heung-min Son. Report today from a couple of sources, including Ben Jacobs and also Tom Bourguer, who both write for Give Me Sport. They report that LAFC in the MLS are advancing into talks to sign Heung-min Son. Spurs won't stand in Son's way of him departing this summer. So they're seeing him in advanced talks and they won't stand Tottenham won't stand in the way of Son. Joseph, firstly, start with you. Do you think Son will leave this summer? And if he does, surely it's going to be after that pre-season tour, right?
Yeah, I think yes to both. I think he'll stay for the pre-season tour, and I think he'll leave this summer. I think if he's ready to go, I think it's right for Tottenham not to stand in his way. I think it's right for both the player and the club. I don't, personally, I don't think Son is going to be a massive contributor if he stays next year. I don't see him being the starting left winger for Tottenham. I think he has kind of he's falling away, and I think he could do really well in the MLS, but I don't think he's ready for the season that Tottenham have got coming up. And yeah, I think for Son himself, I think, it's the right time for him. He's finally won that trophy. He's going down as a Tottenham legend. Him going to the MLS doesn't kind of taint any kind of legacy for Tottenham either, in terms of if he was maybe to go to a European club or if he went to a Premier League club, that would be horrible. But it feels like it's the right time. Again, for me, it's just how Tottenham end up replacing him. The other thing with Son leaving is it frees up a lot of wages. I mean, it's £200,000. I think he's the highest paid player at Tottenham. So that's another thing for Spurs. It kind of, it feels right. It feels like the right moment. But again, if Son was to turn around and go, I don't want to leave, for me, I would, again, if I'm being an emotional Tottenham fan, I'd be like, fine, stay. I'm happy for you to stay. For me, it's when Son's ready. If you're being a bit more, looking at it from a club point of view, then I think, they should just try and get him off their books, because it's clear that he's not going to be maybe the same player we've seen Son be in the past. I think it's the right decision for him to go. But it's about how Tottenham replace him. The left wing position is a difficult one. And I don't know really who is the right option. Obviously, again, links to Rodrigo to me just mean nothing. I don't think we're ever going to get him. I know there's possible links to maybe Rafael Leao. I know Fabio Paratici really liked him previously, and I think that would be, a good option maybe. he's not the best in terms of work rate, but in terms of his actual ability going forward, I think he's an exciting player. I love Kenan Yildiz from Juventus. I think he's unbelievable. I think he's going to be so good. But I don't know how easy it'll be to get him away from Juventus. And the other player that I kind of thought was a shout that no one really is talking about is Iliman Ndiaye from Everton. I think he's really good. Just his ability on the ball and how he dribbles through players is really impressive. But yeah, it's it'll be so hard for Tottenham to replace Son. But it's something they're going to have to try and do if he is to leave, because going into the season with Odegaard as the starting, or Odegaard and I guess Matthias Tell, depending on what Frank sees him as, that's not going to be enough. They're going to need somebody else, and someone more established in Europe. I think maybe someone a bit older would be ideal, someone who's used to playing Champions League football. But again, it's not easy, and Tottenham do seem to struggle to get deals over the line. So yeah, we'll see what happens from there.
Cheers. Kyle, what would be an acceptable offer for Son for you? What would you, if you were Daniel Levy and Tottenham, be listening to or be accepting?
I mean, he's 33 and got a year left on his contract. I would probably say, and as well, MLS, they're not really well known for splashing the cash like Saudi Arabia are. I'd probably say 20 million around that mark, because as well, like, it's not just the transfer fee. You are also getting him off the books wage wise. He is the highest earner, so it does add up throughout a season. But I'm glad we're going down the route of letting him decide as to what he wants to do. I think he's given us so much over the last decade. He's been linked to moves away throughout his career at us. I believe it was Liverpool were interested, Real Madrid were interested, and Bayern Munich were interested in his peak. And he always squashed those rumours.
And Saudi come out this week, Saudi 2023, yeah.
Exactly. It was like near £25 million a year and it would have been tax-free as well. So it's a lot of money, and he stayed because he wanted to achieve that goal of winning a trophy. And I think that alone, he deserves to make his own decision and not kind of be swayed in any way by the club. Because I mean, if you compare it to, for example, Harry Kane, everyone talks about the comparison of who would you be more upset to see leave, Kane when he left or Son. And I think the fact that Kane was supposedly one of our own, but whenever he would be linked to Man City or wherever, he kind of flirted with a move to away a little bit. He didn't turn up to training that one time in 2021 or 2022, I'm not too sure, but he didn't turn up to training. And it's a necessary thing for Son to eventually go, but being a fan and growing up watching him over the last decade, it will be obviously very sad. I think he is now Mr. Tottenham. I see him more as Mr. Tottenham than what Harry Kane is.
Perfect. You actually led me on perfectly to my next question. I won't ask you now because you've pretty much answered it. So I'll ask Bob instead. If Son leaves, will it be more upsetting, Bob, than when Harry Kane did?
Oh yeah, like I'm 36 and I think he's my favorite player of all time. Like, I love him. Like, he showed, like, to put in the context what he did, he signed a new contract when Nuno was manager. Yeah, like, he's given us everything. He scored big goals the whole way through. Even in his first season when he wasn't settling, he scored that last minute goal against Watford. It was kind of a back heel goal. He rarely scored a bad goal. Like, think of all the good goals he scored. City in the quarterfinals, Champions League, when he cut in a few times, like that perfect Son goal, North London derbies, that one he pinged in from the inside left. Like, he just didn't score bad goals. He was always smiling. Like, sorry, it sounds like he's dead. He always seems to have a smile on his face. And just enjoy playing. He seems to love Spurs. And I think captaining the team to Europa League, he did that. Even when there was talk of Kane becoming captain, I would have always preferred Son to be the captain, because he just, as Kyle said there, he never flirted with a move away, even when big, huge clubs were interested in him. Kane had that time and he didn't come to training, as Guy mentioned as well. I think we all knew deep down that Kane probably wanted out. I don't think we ever had that feeling about Son. And he's just a more fun player, the way he kind of would run at players and the goals he scored. To me, like I'm not saying I'll be devastated when he leaves, because it's part of football and it happens. When I would have been devastated if he had have left in his prime. It's probably a better way to put it. I think if he leaves now, this is perfectly ended for him. I think if he was to stay around another season, I'm sure we could almost all hear it. Him getting the ball on the left side, trying to take on his man, getting dispossessed, and that kind of groan going around the stadium. I think if he leaves now, he doesn't have that. And there's no better way to. The only way he could top leaving now the way he is at the moment is you walked out when winning a league or a Champions League, and I just don't think that's an option. So I will be gutted to see him leave from just the fact I love him, and he's been around for so long. You just think of Spurs when you think of him. But yeah, on the positive side, I'd be happy for him to go now, because he couldn't write a script better for him.
Absolutely share that with you, as it'd be sad to let it go. And do you know what? I always lose a lot of followers and I seem to get a lot of hate, in particular from actually South Korean fans, when I say that I think it'd be right to say goodbye to Son. But it's funny that, because they don't read, or seem to anyway, listen to the second part of what I go on to say, in particular when I post about it, and I go on and say it's right to say goodbye to Son. However, he'll always be a Tottenham Hotspur legend. I say this in every post about Son, and he has a right to decide his future, and it's best for all parties. But I really like Son. There's no two ways about it. He's a Tottenham legend. It'd be sadder when he leaves than when Harry Kane will leave. So I don't know why you can't have that opinion that you think we should cash in on Son this summer. It's nothing that Son's bad. I'm not saying he's washed. I'm not saying anything like that. I think this is right to end on a high. It's just a personal opinion, so I think fans should be allowed to have that opinion. But let's swiftly move on to Mikey Moore. Still a few players I want to get through. So let's go through the latest news. So firstly, Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph has reported that Rangers have emerged as favourites to sign Mikey Moore on loan from Tottenham. There's been a lot of interest, particularly from the Championship, but Rangers is seen as the most likely destination at this moment in time. Michael Bridge via Sky Sports News reports that Tottenham Hotspur forward Mikey Moore is expected to join Rangers on a season-long loan deal. It will be a straight loan, no option to buy. Moore chose Rangers despite several offers from clubs in the Championship. Spurs and Moore believe that a season of regular first-team football will be best for his development as he closes in a loan move to Rangers. There you go. That is the latest. Carl, can I start with you? Do you think, firstly, loaning him out is right? And secondly, to Rangers, is that the right move, do you think?
I mean, obviously, I think with the squad registration rules and things like that, there's always an argument to say that we probably shouldn't let him out. And him also being one of our better academy products that you would say is more ready to actually make an impact now rather than actually needing that loan. For example, maybe you could say that Donnelly could do with maybe one more loan. The same with Devine, maybe. But I do really like the idea of seeing him at Rangers, purely because they, correct me if I'm wrong, they're in Europe, aren't they? They've got some sort of Europe.
I think they're in the qualifying rounds of European football right now.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what one, but I think they're playing games right now, basically, as we talk.
Yeah. So, if they do end up qualifying for Europe, he's going to be playing in a league which is quite physical, like quite physical in this like similar sense to how the Championship is. But he's also got that opportunity to play in Europe. And get experience whilst in Europe, which he wouldn't have got if he went to, for example, West Brom, where he was linked to, because obviously now Ryan Mason is the manager there, and so he had a few links along with Lancashire. So I'm excited to see how he would do. I hope it's not the same as when Ahmad went there, because Ahmad was young, didn't have a great loan there. I think he got very little minutes, and the fans turned on him a little bit, but not every player is the same, and I'd really think that it will help him long term.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Thank you very much. I mean, it comes to me as a bit of a surprise, but when you think about it and you hear it's just a loan, it does make a little bit more sense. Bob, how do you feel about this run? Rangers, is it the right move for Mikey Moore and his development?
I mean, I prefer him to against Celtic, but that's just me saying it. Yeah, look, I don't think it's a bad move. Realistically, physical league, bit of time to toughen up there as well. Playing European football, playing for a club that are going to be challenging. He wins another trophy up there. That's 2 trophies, 2 seasons, which, winning breeds winning, and so on. So yeah, I think, look, I think it's a good opportunity for him to go. I would have put him alone no matter what this season. So it's just a matter of where. And as you said, would you be better off going to a Rangers team who are playing top tier in European football, or West Brom, who you're in the Championship, you're probably not getting that quality, maybe, from a European point of view. Like, if I was a Sunderland, I'd be coming in for him on now, like a team who's just been promoted. I think he is good enough to get Premier League minutes. But yeah, look, to me, this could sound a bit blasé, but I wouldn't really lose sleep on where he goes as long as it's somewhat reasonable. And yeah, I think a Rangers move is grand. I'm happy enough with that.
Okay. No, fair enough. Joseph, anything to add about Moore's proposed move to Rangers on loan?
Not too much. I mean, I echo what both Bob and Carl say. I think it's a good move for him. I think he needs regular men's football minutes, and he's not going to get that at Tottenham this year. He needs to be playing week in, week out, 60 to 70 minutes if possible. If it ends up being on the bench and playing, 30, 40 minutes, even that is better than what he'd probably be getting at Tottenham this season. And again, I think Rangers is a good fit. Again, European football. I think, to be honest, like this is where I think Mikey Moore has so much potential. I haven't seen enough from him in a Tottenham shirt to sit there and go, he needs to be a part of our squad next year in terms of starting or, getting around the first team that much. Because I thought in Europe he looked good. But when you're looking at him in the Premier League, we didn't see much from him at all last year. So I think a loan move to a club like Rangers is a really good fit. And I think he can do well there. So looking forward, I hope that is the deal that goes through, and I think it will be a good move for him.
Yeah, I have nothing to add myself either, apart from hopefully, gets over the line. Hopefully he does well there, because it seems right for him. Absolutely, he's not going to get that pathway and the minutes that he ultimately wants. Even with us struggling all the competitions, it would be mainly off the bench. But João Palhinha, I want to move into next. Not too much news. We heard earlier in the week that Tottenham were exploring a move. Nothing really more than that's being reported. Carl, do you think he would suit a Thomas Frank system?
He's not a brilliant passer, which I think is kind of what we need. We need someone who's got a decent passing range, or he's a decent progressive passer. I think Porro and Romero are probably our only real players who kind of have that passing range in them. He's a good player, and I think as well, I don't agree with kind of the fan base being completely against it online, considering a year ago, before he joined to Bayern Munich, everyone was pining over him and wanting him at Spurs. He offers a profile that maybe we don't have, in that sense of like a good tackler, a real kind of does all the dirty work. We don't really have that in current players in the squad. And as well, if Son goes, our squad is quite it's not very experienced. It's quite a young team. I think the next one after that would probably be Ben Davis. And then after that, it kind of Madison Vicario, but after that, it kind of falls off quite a bit in age-wise, Solanke. But so him being 30, he's kind of still got a few more years in him. And I think I read that it would only be a loan as well, which isn't too bad, if you know what I mean. If he has a bad season, we don't necessarily have to keep hold of him. If he has a good season, great. We can look at maybe buying him permanently after the year's up.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. No, thank you very much. Joseph, anything to say about Polina? Would he be a good short-term option? Does he have the pass ability, though, that the Thomas Frank system needs?
Yeah, I think maybe it's good to be. I think he'd be an okay option. I think he'll be a good kind of stopgap, I guess, in a way. Let's say if we couldn't get Wharton this year, maybe it would be good to go and get Paulinho on loan. And I think he is a good player. I do think there are better options, though. I think obviously Wharton would be perfect. I really love the idea of us going for Kobe Mainoo. I think that's a deal that would be great for Tottenham to try and explore with Manchester United's financial issues and probably wanting to try and maximise their profits from selling homegrown players or club-trained players like Garnacho and Mainoo. I think it would be a really good opportunity, and I think he'd be excellent for Spurs. And yeah, I think there is other options that might fit the mould a bit better. But again, the conditions of the deal for Paulinho seem quite favourable for the situation that Spurs are in terms of maybe getting him on a loan with like an option to buy, or even just a straight loan would be a pretty good option for Spurs. For the player of his quality would be quite a good deal. So I'd be content with the idea of getting Paulinho, but we need something in that midfield because Basuma's too inconsistent, and Bentancur, although he's been good, he still obviously has injury issues, and I just don't think we have that senior head that is consistent enough in that midfield that will guide us through these tough games in Europe and within the Premier League. So we need something to happen in that position. The thing that seems a shame the most is it seems like we need players to leave before we can get players in. And so far, Johan Langer cannot sell a thing. It looks like Basuma is really struggling to get out the door. We can't get Richarlison out the door. So it's a really tough one for Spurs, but we've got to do something in that midfield. I think, even from the two games against Wycombe and Luton, I think we saw our midfield gets bypassed a lot, and it's something that needs to be addressed.
Certainly does. Next, we move on to Antonin Kinski, who is a possibility. He could make a loan move to Lille over in France, who are apparently interested in him and getting him on loan. Carl, do you think we should be keeping Kinski? Should we be loaning him? Surely it doesn't make much sense after selling Keeley.
Yeah, I don't really think we should be loaning. And I think the source kind of speaks for itself. It's not a hugely reliable source. They've said before about Spurs that we'd agreed to sign the centre-back from Burnley and that it was pretty much a done deal. And then he signed a new contract a few days later. So it's kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt. But the fall off from Vicario to Austin is quite big, and I just would not trust him in Champions League games. Austin is actually, I believe he's 27. Like he's quite a lot older than what people think he is. I think because he's kind of seen as this player who was in our academy, people think that he's a lot younger than what he is, and he's kind of got room for improvement. But I think it's just a case of where he won't get much better. He's not played much football over the last couple of years, which is kind of why it didn't make too much sense selling Keeley, because he technically played more football than Austin, a lot younger, and there's an argument to make that he's already better than him. So I think it would be so stupid if we were to loan out Kinski, especially considering he could really push Vicario for the first spot as well.
That's what I was going to ask next, and so I'll ask that, Bob. Do you think that if he does somehow stay Kinski, that he'll be competing with Vicario, or do you see Vicario as the number one?
I'd put it as maybe 60-40 towards Vicario at the moment. I was listening to a pod earlier. I was listening to another one, and they were saying that if Kinski and Vicario had a child, you'd have the perfect goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Kind of if you molded their skill set. I think the way, like if you look at the way, from I suppose the keepers that he's had in the past, in the Thomas Frank's had in the past, and is it Flecken and then David Raya before, he's happy to have his goalkeepers start high up the pitch and almost dictate play from there. So in that case, I wouldn't be surprised if Kinski worked his way in there. In saying that, I think when we saw him over the first couple of games, especially that game against Liverpool, especially after having gone from Fraser Forster to him, I think we were all probably a little bit overexcited when it comes back to us all being a bit emotional at times and how good he was. And he was certainly he was unbelievable in that game. But then we saw him kind of slip off in the Villa game in the FA Cup, and then he probably could have done better in the Arsenal away from home game. So I do think he has a lot to work on, but he is young, and by all accounts, we have this new goalkeeper coach in who's come from Liverpool, who's meant to be kind of the real deal from a goalkeeping coaching point of view. So maybe he can improve his goalkeeping side. So yeah, I'd say 60-40 maximum from who I think is going to be the goalkeeper. But I would say Vicario's a number one going to shoot slightly.
Okay, thank you. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to read out a couple of bits about the squad to South Korea, but I don't think I require any input about it. Just that Doggy, Takai and Solomon will remain at Hotspur Way for treatment alongside Dragosin, Kulusevski and Gill, who will be continuing their rehabilitation, and Mikey Moore, Alfie Devine and Dane Scarlett have all been granted permission not to travel in order to explore potential opportunities for loan moves. That's the latest of that, and they've arrived in Hong Kong since. So, that kind of wraps us up. Very long podcast. Thank you all for sticking with us. Massive thanks to my panel, who must be absolutely shattered. So apologies, for keeping you for that long. We won't have this problem for much longer, though. There'll be 2 podcasts a week. I can officially announce that now from the 14th of August when the season gets underway on a Monday night, and now a Thursday night too, with us playing the Champions League. It feels right. 2 games, 2 podcasts delivered here at my channel. So thank you. Please do come in. Let's go through the panel and thank them and see where you can find them across social media. Firstly, Joseph, massive thanks for tonight. Where can people find you on the socials? And again, remind people what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. Thank you for having me. Obviously, always great to be a part of the channel and doing all of this on the podcast and even some shorts and things like that. It's been so much fun. So really enjoying it all. You can find me, Joseph THFC on X, kind of just spouting my own things about Tottenham. And again, looking forward to making more videos, different things going forward. So yeah, just looking forward to the season. Hopefully it will be a good season for Spurs, and I'm sure there's going to be so much to talk about each day and week, and looking forward to more podcasts with you, Harry. So yeah, thank you for having me once again.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Bob, thank you very much for coming on. Maybe a little bit of a longer podcast for you compared to others, and I wouldn't absolutely blame you or be surprised about that. Where can people find you both, though, on the socials, and talk to people about what you do again?
Yeah, so look, Twitter's probably the best place for me, or X, whichever goes by, Bob_Spurs. You might find me in the Bricklayers or Coaching Horses or any of the surrounding pubs and for the Burnley game, so you might keep an eye out for me at that. But yeah, there's not much else really. I'm just a fan who likes chatting a bit of rubbish about Spurs here and there. So yeah, it's good to be back on today.
Aren't we all the same? Thank you very much, Bob, for giving us your time. Kyle, as well, big thanks to you. Again, remind people what you do. I find it really fascinating about what you're doing, and wish you all the best in your pathway, and congratulations on graduating for uni. Where can people find you as well on the socials?
Yeah, thank you very much. X, again, probably the best place for me to see what I'm doing. It's Kyle Freeguards, just my name. Not really up to too much at the moment. It's the summer holidays, so it's a bit boring over there. I'd like to maybe write a few articles when I can, but yeah, there's not too much going on. But come September, hopefully I'll actually be able to provide something somewhat entertaining.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope that you have a lot of positive things to talk about when it comes to Spurs. But big thanks to everyone for this evening. Follow the panel. You can follow me at Harry Scarfe 22. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on YouTube, massively appreciate it. Again, thanks for 3K recently. If you're listening on the podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. A lot of you moving over to podcast platforms and listening to the end as well. So big up to you if that's one of you. Let us know as well where you're listening from and what you thought of the show. But for now, come on, you Spurs.